Early next morning, on August 16th, Baba felt very ill and had several loose bowel movements.
Here we go with that.
He was also in an extremely irritable mood, for he had had no sleep the previous night. Gustaji, Ramji, and Padri arose at 5 o'clock, appearing fresh and ready to start. However, upon eyeing them, Baba became extremely vexed and expressed his anger. You three are self-serving and have no thought of care for me. You have no real feeling for me in your hearts. You slept soundly throughout the night while I was suffering dysentery. Now one of you awakened to help me. I told you that I was suffering from dysentery as I had in Ajmer, but not one of you paid any attention to me and fell asleep. Not one of you has had any thought of me. Has it been written in any book that you should go on sleeping, forsaking your companions to suffer, then enter medically? He scored himself. I too am self-served, and because of that I am traveling all over India in search of sadhus who may crush my ego. Padri instantly became annoyed, claiming Baba was being extremely unfair. After allowing Padri to defend himself by listening to his argument, Baba calmly began leading the walk at 5:45 a.m. Near the fourth milestone, the long-haired Itnert, who seems to be a Muslim, suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He amiably approached Baba, casually shook his hand, and went on his way. The Mandali was surprised at the stranger's behavior, but he was not unknown to the master. The man was an Abdal, a spiritual agent for Meher Baba's inner work. Who except the wanderer knew what inner spiritual message had been conveyed by simply shaking hands with Meher Baba. After his momentary meeting, it soon began to rain, and he found a shelter in a deserted cabin near the railway tracks. They had breakfast there and departed when the rain stopped. Having walked several miles, they came across an enchanting stream of crystal clear water. They refreshed themselves and rested there for some time. Baba had not eaten anything solid for the past several days and was continually exerting a white glutinous matter that he suffered recurring stomach pains and fever. Seeing some children grazing goats in the distance, Baba suddenly directed Padri to ask them if they had anything to eat. One lad replied he had some bread and hot chili chutney. Padri conveyed this to Baba and was told to pay the boy 1 anna and bring the chutney. Padri was aghast and said, Baba, you have dysentery. You're not going to eat hot chutney, are you? It will upset your stomach even more. Baba replied, what do you know? On the contrary, the chutney will eliminate my dysentery and cure me. Reluctantly, Padri paid the boy 1 anna and brought the chutney. Baba ate it with a piece of chapati from Gustaji, all gazed in disbelief while he appeared for the first time in days to be quite happy and satisfied. Can anyone imagine the mystery of his love and work? He finally ate after meeting with one of his spiritual agents. Having done some work on the inner planes, and the simple shepherd boy did not have any real notion of who Meher Baba was. What depth is the work he must do? What depth of knowledge the master possesses? To accept the boy's offering, what I has known to whom his humble food was given. After eating the chutney, Baba sent word to the boy that it was delicious. He had broken his fast with the shepherd boy's spontaneous sharing. Meanwhile, the boy had been intently staring at Meher Baba, charmed by his animated features. Feeling quite refreshed, Baba continued on, leading the men to Laskar, which they reached at in the afternoon on August 16th. The men were exhausted by the 9-mile walk from Padri. After in a Hindu restaurant and rested through the afternoon in the waiting room at the railway station. In the evening, Padri and Ramji went in search of a lodge. They found a Hindu dharmashala, but the manager was suspicious and asked him, "What community do you belong to? You don't look like Hindus." Padri replied that they were Zoroastrians. The manager was puzzled, inquiring, "Zoroastrians? I never heard of such a community. I am sorry, but we can't accommodate you here." Padri pleaded, explained that they were, in fact, Zoroastrians, but the manager said, "Tell the truth, are you Hindus or Muslims?" I am neither. I am a Zoroastrian," says the Padri. And to show the manager, he lifted his shirt and revealed his kusti thread tied around his waist. The manager was worried that Padri might be a Muslim causing trouble, but persuaded that he was not, and he allowed them to use the veranda for the dharmashala. When the men rolled out the great death register, Padri signed it as Ferdun and driver, and Behramji registered as Behram Fardun Irani. Since it is common in India to adopt one's father's name as one's middle name, the manager again looked confused and asked Padri, "Are you his father?" Padri laughed and replied, "You see, I am younger than he. How could I be his father?" Mayor Baba tried to relax on the veranda, but due to the stench of a nearby gutter, he could not tolerate it and decided not to stay at the dharmashala. Padri was sent to the train station to seek permission to sleep in the waiting room for 2 days. There was a Parsi working at the station. After Padri talked with the station master, the latter referred him to the Parsi, even though Padri again insisted that his party consisted of Zoroastrians from Bombay. Even show his kusti again, whatever that is. What's a kusti?
They make it underneath the body.
Something like a Jewish?
No, some band, they make it underneath
like a belt?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, and the man was not convinced and asked, why would Zoroastrians go to Hardwar? Every Bombay man is not a Parsi. However, despite the suspicion of the Parsi, the station master intervened and allowed them to use the waiting room. The next day, August 17th, a telegram was sent to Sadashiv Patel, instructing him to meet them in Benares. Baba spent the rest of the day roaming the large town of Laskar in search of sadhus and bowed down to a number of them. Vajidar arrived at 4 a.m. and following morning with the latest news about matters in Bombay. Baba explained to him about the proposed foot journey, Sikori. Baba then asked the four men whether they should proceed to Sikori by foot, searching for sadhus and saints on the way, or journey by train to different places of pilgrimage, and eventually return to Mehrabad. Gustaji, Behramji, and Padri were eager to put an immediate end to the foot journey and continue touring by train. Unexpectedly, Baba also agreed to stop walking. With Vajidar, they took a train from Laskar at 1:30 p.m. and reached Morazbad at 6 p.m. Arriving at Morazbad, Mary Baba immediately set out in search of sadhus and found one in a temple near the river. The holy man must have been genuine because not only did Baba bow down to him, but the mandali did so as well. For the men to bow down was an unusual occurrence, and the sadhus applied holy ash to each man's forehead, including Baba's. While returning, Baba spotted a musk under a neem tree. It was learned that this God-intoxicated man had been sitting in that one place for 4 years, never moved despite all types of weather conditions. He was seated in filth. The naked musk had some poison mannerism. He would excrete while he was sitting and short of ticus over his shoulder, wiping his hands on a straw mat. Baba wanted to bathe him, but the mutt firmly refused. However, after discovering that the mutt was extremely fond of ice cream, Baba fed a large amount to him. Baba paid the hotel keeper 5 rupees to feed the mutt ice cream whenever he wished some more. And then they departed. Baba did not reveal the identity of the mutt, though Padri remembered him to have been one that was highly advanced, as well as not forgettable character. Baba with his companions departed for Bhopal the following day on August 19th, changing trains at Lucknow. Padri was sent to Benares to meet Sadhguru Patel and was directed to proceed to Baroda with him, where all would meet up together. They arrived in Bhopal on the afternoon of the 20th of August, and there too Baba continued to search out and bow to sadhus. Hadi arrived from Ahmednagar and pleaded with Baba to end his wandering and come back to Merbad. Baba did not give him a definite answer and left the evening for Ratlam, not give him a definite, and left him the evening for Radha, allowing Adi to accompany them. Ramji was sent ahead to Baroda to make the necessary arrangement. On the train, Baba's health had suffered alarming, so he decided to rest in Baroda for a couple of days until he regained his strength. Yeah, okay. I want this year. They reached Ratlam on the evening of August 22nd. For some hours, Baba walked about the city, contacting and bowing to sadhus, and reaching the Baroda at 8 p.m. in the evening, they rendezvoused with Padri, Sadhguru, and Ramji. Baba then ordered Adi back to Ahmednagar. Ramji had arranged for the stay in the Gujarat Hindu Lodge, where Baba stated, after journeying to Mount Abu, our tour will end and we will return to Mehrabad and settle there. The men were glad to hear this since they were exhausted as the journey continued for 3 weeks. One fact in Baba's series which was not mentioned was that their money was almost all spent. You want to continue? The first paragraph.
Money punch.
Oh, no.
There was an unexpected change the next day. Baba and the men casually went about sightseeing in Baroda. They visited the Maharaja's palace, the notable museum and art gallery, and other tourist sites of the town. Afterward, Baba mentioned his new plan. We will settle in the village of Singar near Pune. Singar is a suitable place for the permanent Mandalay to live. There we can all lead a quiet, peaceful life, since it is secluded and conveniently located with plenty of water. And besides, it is in Babajan's territory. Instead of resting in Baroda as planned, Baba left 2 days later at 10 p.m. and arrived at Ujjain on the 25th of August at 1 p.m. After lunch, he set out in search of more sadhus and found many on the banks of the Sipra River. There were several lepers as well. Baba bowed to the sadhus, placing his forehead on their feet, and gave them money as his dakshina. A Shiva temple was located on the banks of the Spira River, and Baba told Sadhguru to bathe first in the river and then go to that temple.
Is talking about the Nepal or about the Shiva's temple is in Nepal?
No, this is a different one. This is in Baroda. There's Shiva's temple everywhere.
Oh, okay.
Shiva's worshipped throughout. Shiva's worshipped throughout India.
Oh, okay.
2 strange sadhus were found in a hut next to the temple. One of them was a leper. His eyes were red balls of raw flesh, and his fingers were almost completely wasted away. Baba approached them gently. He placed some coins on the ground before the sadhus. But when he bent over to place his head at their feet, the leprous sadhu withdrew his legs with a loud, unearthly cry, "Shiva!" Instead of touching his feet, Baba folded his hands and reverently bowed his head to the man, then quietly left. This leprous sadhu knew who had come to bow to him. Meher Baba later indicated that this sadhu was genuinely spiritually advanced on an inner plane. Before they left the river site, the sadhu began singing melodiously and beating a rhythm on his thighs as if to convey his great joy at having had Meher Baba's darshan. Leaving Ujjain at 4 p.m., they arrived in Mortaka at 10 p.m. on August 25th. They slept on the station platform and the next morning rode in a bullock cart to Kashawar, Manduhata, a famous place of pilgrimage for Hindus 6 miles away, where, during a meditation, Upasni Maharaj had entered a state of samadhi, which led him to contact Narayan Maharaj and Sai Baba. Padri was suffering severely from dysentery and stayed behind in the town. Although Baba himself was also quite ill and feeling weak, he made the journey in the bullock cart, suffering its jolts. In Kareshwar, Baba met a Bengali Pandit, a Brahmin scholar or priest, named Nirmal Ananda Swami. The local people called him Mahatma, taking him to be a holy man, a great soul. While talking to him, Baba instructed Sadhu to take a bath in the sacred Narmada River. Baba spoke in English with the Swami to disguise himself. With the Swami's help, Baba found a number of other sadhus in the area to whom he could bow. They returned to Mortaka at 10 p.m. and immediately departed for Baroda. On August 27th, at a wayside station, a Muslim wanted to board their train compartment. It was sundown, and Padri tried to stop him, since Baba had said he wished to be alone. But the man caught a glance of Meher Baba and insisted on having a closer look. Pointing to Baba, he started shouting, "Why are you preventing me from meeting that gentleman? I only want to shake hands with him. Why do you stop me?" He then got into the train and held out his hand to Baba, who extended his. After clutching hands, the Muslim was quite happy, and Baba spoke with him for a long time. During their conversation, the man took out a chunk of opium, folded it in a chapati, and swallowed it.
Wow.
When Baba casually asked about the Pavarga Hills, the man praised the place in a vociferous voice. The opium took effect. In an expansive mood, he continued to sing the praises of Pavagar. "It's heaven, I tell you, a paradise on earth." And to the surprise of the Mandali, Baba appeared to take the man seriously and decided to go there instead of off to Mount Abu. Later that evening, Baba and his companions arrived in Baroda and stayed once again in the Gujarat Hindu Lodge. Shadasi did not get down and returned to Pune by the same train. The next afternoon at 4 p.m. they walked to Pavagar and reached the foot of the mountain at 9 p.m. They had to carry their baggage along the narrow jungle road, and Padri asked Gustaji to light a lantern to guide them, implying that Baba might trip and fall. But Gustaji insisted that they need to waste kerosene. As they began to follow one man, he suddenly disappeared, leaving them stumbling in the dark. Padri fell down and bruised his foot, later venting his anger upon Gustaji. A Muslim police officer happened by, taking them to a dharmashala where they rested for the night. As the place was situated in the middle of the jungle and was frequented by wild animals, the policeman strongly advised them to sleep indoors. On August 29th, they awoke at 6 a.m. and soon began climbing the steep mountain, although a thick fog engulfed the area, creating a forbidding atmosphere. Baba continued to suffer from dysentery and was passing a glutinous liquid despite this condition.
What's a glutinous?
Glutenous.
No.
I
Okay.
think it probably was like syrupy.
Oh, yeah.
It may be syrupy-like.
Oh, gluten, okay.
Despite this condition, his pace up the formidable trail was the swiftest. They stopped twice along the way to have tea, in contrast to their climb through the Nilgiris hills. Excellent tea was available, and Baba had not allowed them to have any before they started. After climbing 3 miles, they reached the summit on which a Hindu temple had been dedicated to Kali, the mother of the universe, and the female aspect of the primal energy. Thousands of people flocked there during the annual fairs, but the daily number of pilgrims averaged only a few dozen. Baba and the Mandali went inside the Kali temple and bowed to the shrine of the Divine Mother. Beyond the temple was the tomb of a Muslim saint named Sajan Shah Wali. Baba again led the Mandali inside, and all bowed their heads on the saint's tomb. Then they hiked to a fort, where they enjoyed the beautiful scenery of the mountain range and valley. While relaxing, Baba again brought up the subject of residing at Singard, near Pune, and living in huts which they would construct. The Mandali liked the idea more, since the area was similar to Pavagar. They descended the mountain at noon, and after lunch returned to Baroda at 8:15 p.m., spending the night in the Gujarat Lodge. The following day, the master again repeated his same enigmatic statement that he had done throughout the tour. "O God, I am not Baba." Confronting the Mandali, he cried out, "It is you who have bestowed Babahood upon me. Now sadhus and saints want to crush me." By this time, Padri, Gustaji, and Baramji were fed up with hearing this baffling repetition and pleaded with him to cease such statements. In reply, Meher Baba said, "I am serious. I have no stuff in me. And my masters, Babajan and Maharaj, also have no stuff in them. Upasni Maharaj is not even a saint, let alone a God-realized master." When one of the men asked why he uttered such strange statements about his masters, Baba explained, "Divine law compels me to say it, and divine law applies to you also. Whatever you do, you are obliged to do it according to divine law." Baba's remarks were mainly directed toward goading Padri. The reason Baba was constantly repeating this over and over again was that Padri's mind had become disturbed, thinking, "What type of spirituality is this, which even ordinary people would hesitate to act? What hell have I fallen into?" When Padri had delivered Sufi and Saint, the horse and the animals, remember? Sufi and Saint?
Oh, yeah.
Sufi is the horse,
Yeah.
and Saint is
Yeah.
the what? Dog
Dog? No.
or donkey?
Donkey.
To Upasni Maharaj at Sikori, Maharaj had not only abused him terribly, but even cursed him. This had shaken Padri terribly. Inexplicably, Maharaj had been so furious that he had refused to accept the animals, even when it had been clearly explained that they had been sent by Meher Baba. Padri thought, if Baba knew what was going to happen, why did he send Nervous and me there in the first place? Why did Maharaja act so furiously? Along the tour, the questions disturbing Padri's mind were answered by Baba at different times without ever being voiced. Padri knew Baba's remarks were directed at him and felt ashamed for doubting the wisdom of the Master's orders, though he found no way to understand the full meaning. Despite their attempts to control their minds, despite their attempts to control their own minds, the men still became fed up with Baba for repeating the same enigmatic subject again and again. He would do so morning, noon, and night until they could not tolerate hearing how saints and sadhus were out to destroy his Babahood. It would not be a matter of him saying he was not a Baba for a few minutes. The Mandali were made to listen to the same haranguing monologue for hours until they could stand it no longer and would plead with him to stop. At times the master would also swear at them to arouse them out of their laxness. He also tried to create doubts in their minds by confronting them. What do you know? You only say I am God in human form. Do you really believe I am God? What have you gained from me? Have you lost or gained? Why do you believe I am God? Tell me, what are you thinking? Speak up or I shall slap you. Thus Baba lashed at them until they were submissive. Instead of Sikori, Baba headed toward Bombay. Adi was telegraphed in Ahmednagar and instructed to meet them there with Masaji. On September 9th, the group left Baroda and arrived in Bombay. They stayed with Vajiftar's family in the Irani mansion for a week. A permanent residence was still to be settled. After only a few days, Baba decided to visit Goa with some of the Mandali. Padri was exhausted from their recent journey and entreated Baba to allow him to stay behind. He was mentally fatigued and was disgusted with Baba's constant goading. So he pleaded with Baba not to take him, claiming he hated traveling. Baba promised, saying, "Come along. I swear I won't bother you anymore." But Padri did not believe it. Padri, at 21 and one of the youngest Mandali, was often caught between the quarrels of the older men, especially Gustaji and Biramji, who had been at loggerheads throughout the journey. This, along with Baba's constant teasing, had caused too much emotional turmoil for Padri to endure any longer. Padri also had a furious temper and feared that he might become so enraged that he would say something disrespectful for which he might have to repent for the rest of his life. Despite Baba's promise, Padri did not go. Baba appointed Vajiftar manager in his place. Baba left Bombay for Pune with Gustaji, Biramji, Masaji, and Vajiftar on September 14th, and from there they immediately departed for Panjim. During the train ride, Vajiftar fell ill with a fever, and by the time they reached Landa, his condition had worsened. In Landa, on some pretext, Baba became very angry with Vajiftar and ordered him to lie down on the stone station platform. Masaji was ordered to look after him, while Biramji was sent to bring fresh milk. Baba and Gustaji ate in a Hindu restaurant and brought food back for Biramji and Masaji. Vajiftar was given the milk and the journey resumed. Amazingly, by Baba's venting his rage at him, Vajiftar's condition steadily improved, and after a few hours he was completely well. All their luggage was bedrolled. Leaving the train at the port of Marmango, they went by boat to Panjim, where they stayed in a hotel owned by Christians. At Panjim and in Goa, they saw various old churches and other Christian landmarks. The most important church they visited was the Good Jesus Basilica, which contains the body of Francis Xavier, who is revered as a saint. Let's see this, what it says. You saw his body? Francis Xavier, 1506 to 1562, only 56 years old he died, was a Catholic priest who helped found the Jesuit Society of Jesus with Ignatius of Loyola as its leader. Called the Apostle to the Indies, he spent 11 years as a missionary in Southeast Asia and Japan, finally settling in India. Goa is predominantly Christian, not only because of the Jesuit missionaries, but because it is legendary in Goa that Thomas, one of the 12 apostles of Jesus, traveled to India from Israel, spreading the gospel. Another legend in the East is that the Apostle Thomas's tomb is in southern India, which we visited in Madras. Yeah, in Madras.
Yeah, we went there.
We went
One
to...
second, I come back, please. 1 second.
The mummified body of the Jesuit priest and missionary has been preserved since the 16th century and is still displayed to the public once every few years. Goa is one of the few areas in India predominantly Christian, and this basilica is considered the most important place of Catholic pilgrimage in India. Baba made an extensive tour of the elaborate church, even climbing the dark stairs to the high dome. And here's a picture of India, a map of India. And where Goa's over here. Goa is right here.
Okay. Sorry.
There are predominantly people that from Portugal settled there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Goa is over here. Look at Madras, how south Madras is. That's where we landed.
Uh-huh.
And then we went all the way down here.
We went down here, and then we went to Cochin.
Did you go to zoo too, in Madras Zoo?
Oh yeah, we went to the Madras Zoo.
Yeah.
Did you go there with the monkeys
Monkey
and
and
the snake?
Snake, yeah, snake, you see?
Madras Zoo.
Madras Zoo, zoo.
Zoo?
We went to the zoo, the snake was there.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember. And the chicken stuff. Rooster, chicken, monkey, everything.
After staying in Goa for only 3 days, Baba decided to return to Bombay instead of venturing on. In Bombay, he initially stayed at the Irani mansion in Dadar district. During the succeeding 3 months of September, October, November 1924, Meher Baba traveled back and forth between Bombay and Ahmednagar several times. The purpose of his frequent trips was to establish a permanent place of residence for himself and the Mandali. The plan to settle in Singarh had been abandoned. The master began visiting the family of Nusawan Sata regularly at their residence in Ahmednagar called Akbar Press, a cotton mill. When Baba would stay at Ahmedabad during these visits, his mail would be addressed to Akbar Press, and Nusawan would forward it to Mehrabad. Sometimes Baba would go to the Sata home to eat lunch and relax, sitting under a shady tree in the compound, discussing matters with his Mandali and Nusawan. Gradually, by his frequent visits, all the members of this Zoroastrian family were deeply drawn to him and accepted Meher Baba as their spiritual master. In the years that followed, his spiritual connection with the Sata and Jeshawala families became very significant. That's where Erich came from. Also, during this period, new contacts were established in Ahmednagar and Bombay. These new people were to prove useful in the master's work in the new future. Gangaram Pawar, who served Baba Bakri bread when he first visited Arangan during 1923, became closely connected with the master at this time. Maruti Patel, the headman of the village, also became closely associated with Baba. Because of these two men, all the villagers in Arangan. On November 18th, the master began observing silence for 1 week at Mehrabad. Baba remained secluded in the jopti with the door locked, while Padri kept watch on the veranda day and night. Occasionally Baba would eat, but Padri had instructions to keep his eyes down and not look at his face while bringing his meal. Gustaji and Masaji were the only other men who were with Baba at this time. Most of the other Mandali were either in Bombay, Lonalva, or Pune. Baramji had been sent to Persia, and Baidul was still in Persia conducting a school in Meher Baba's name, which was financed by Daulat J. Irani. During this 1 week of silence, the master saw no one except Padri. Gustaji and Masaji were ordered to stay on the property, but to keep aloof from him. During the first week of December, the master left Mehrabad for Bombay with Padri, Masaji, and Gustaji. He again rented the quarters at the Barucha building, where he had stayed during January 1924 before his trip to Persia. Mera, Naja, and Daulat were instructed to come there and share a room. During the month of December, Baba would occasionally eat, but for the most part remained on liquids, usually warm water mixed with sugar. During this period, Baba also ordered Gustaji to fast for a week on only water. Naja, with Mera's help, cooked the meals in Barucha building. As they cooked, Gustaji occasionally went to the kitchen and expounded on the mysterious ways of the master. Once, while Gustaji was relating an amusing anecdote, Naja laughed loudly. Baba overheard her and angrily ordered Mustaji to take Naja back to Pune. They left immediately for the train station. After a short while, Baba forced Mera and Daulat to leave the house. Mera was wearing an ordinary working sari dress and did not know where they were supposed to go. She also had orders not to let any man touch her, and on the sidewalk some pedestrians were jostling past each other on the street. However, Mera and Daulat left and began slowly walking along, not knowing where they were headed. In a short time, Baba came walking toward them with Gustaji. He took Mera by the arm and led her and her mother to bourgeois Dalewa's house next to Manzali Meme and instructed Gustaji to take them back to their residence. Meanwhile, Naja and Mustaji had missed the train to Pune and went to Daliwala's home also, where Baba encountered them. Embracing Naja, who was in tears, Baba explained to her that she was not to blame, that he was upset due to another reason. Baba led Naja and Masaji back to the Barucha building, where he explained, "Why did I get upset with Naja? Because of my work at that moment, it was absolutely necessary that no one remain in the house. For this reason, I pretended to be upset and ordered all to leave." Turning to Naja, he reassured her that she was not to blame and not to worry about disturbing him. The next day, Baba told Mera, Naja, and Daulat, "You should never leave me, even if I force you away. You should always hold to me." Baba told Chanji to take them to a movie at Madeleine Cinema, which he owned. The three ladies were about to leave, dressed in their ordinary saris, when Baba told them, "Have you all turned into nuns? Do clothes have any connection with spirituality? No. Change your clothes and let's go. And then let's go." The ladies were happy to put on their finest saris and go with Baba to the movies. However, after watching only half the film, Baba unexpectedly wanted to leave, and all returned to the Barucha building. Here's Adi Jr., who lived in London.
Who is that?
Baba's brother, who lived in London.
Oh, he was
You know that Bonner's father?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Bonner's.
Shireen Bonner.
She is? Yeah.
Father.
That's
Shireen
her
Bonner's father.
Father. Oh, she in Banu?
Bonner.
You know,
from,
she lives in Mexico.
Santa
New Mexico.
Fe.
Oh.
Her mother was.
The mother's
married.
Franny.
I feel in the giants. Oh,
That was her
handsome.
husband.
Wow. Both Adi was handsome.
Yeah,
Secretary
Adi
Bush.
Jr., yeah.
Is that the right one that I'm talking about?
Yeah, definitely.
Frank needs it. So that's Shireen's father?
Right.
Did you ever ask you something? Some man is in front of Pune, Baba's house, as big as, when you arrive at Baba's house.
We've never been to Baba's house.
We got lost. I've been, but I got lost this time.
Baba's room.
I was trying to take Gigi, we got lost.
Ah.
Let's just read this little bit about Adi, then we'll finish tonight. Adi Jr. Throughout the 1920s, while traveling between Ahmednagar and Bombay, Meher Baba would often stop in Pune to visit his family. During this period, he began calling his younger brother Adi Jr. in order to distinguish between him and Adi Kearani, his secretary, whom he called Adi Sr. Adi Jr. had a mischievous, carefree side, like his brothers Jamshid and Jal. One day, while Baba was visiting the family, Adi pinched some chewing tobacco from his brother's box, sneaked away, and chewed it. He promptly became dizzy and nauseated. Shireen found out what he had done and told Baba. Baba gave him a hard slap and scolded, "Why did you snitch my tobacco?" Adi countered, "Why not? You chew tobacco?" In a warning tone, Baba explained, "Don't do as I do. I can fast for months on end. Can you? Do as I tell you to do. Don't ever try to imitate me in any way." Shortly thereafter, Baba gave his younger brother a pinch of tobacco. Adi expressed his confusion. "I don't understand. You slapped me for chewing tobacco, and now you are giving it to me." Baba says, "I am giving it to you, so now it is all right." Then he winked and joked, "Just don't tell Memo or Mommy."
I want to hide the child, call me Memo.
Yeah, he called his mommy Memo.
Yeah, Memo.
And this time, Adi did not feel dizzy or ill, and he chewed the tobacco.
Oh, see.
Adi Jr. was also spiritually inclined and had an intense personality. Adi had met Upasni Maharaj in Sikori with his mother and greatly admired the great yogi's awesome personality. During this period, Adi was attending St. Vincent's High School and became very captivated with Babajan. In fact, he was so fascinated with the ancient woman that at this time he had a higher regard for her than for his own brother. Unbeknown to his father or mother, almost every day on his way home from school, Adi would stop by her seat under the neem tree in Charbadi. Padri. He would stand near her and gaze at her. Sometimes Babajan would beckon him to have a cup of tea with her, but she would not speak intelligibly around him and would not mention Merwan or ask Adi anything about himself. It was observed that the language Babajan uttered was something which was virtually incomprehensible. Her language was distinctly her own, for she would usually mutter something in different languages or enigmatic sounds which no one could follow. However, one day, for no apparent reason, she gazed deeply into Adi's eyes and spoke in clear Persian. Speak the truth, no matter how bitter it may be.
Who was speaking?
Babajan.
Babajan looked right into Adi Jr.'s eyes and said, speak the truth, no matter how bitter it may be. She spoke it in Persian. Adi was startled by her words. That moment made a great impact on him for the rest of his life. He never heard Babajan speak intelligibly again, and he never forgot her words. It was during this period that Ephemeros Dadachanji began visiting the master regularly and established a close link. Chanji, as he was his cinema, and after relieving himself of all worldly responsibilities and attachments, come and stay permanently as one of the Mandali. One day when the master was on a train to Bombay, accompanied by Mera, he told her to massage his feet. She began doing so, and he suddenly said to her, if you press my feet like this every day, I will make you like Babajan. But after this, during their stay in the Barucha building, there was no possibility of massaging Baba's feet, since he would often be fasting in seclusion, and no one but Gustaji was allowed to go near him. Dina Talati, Suna, and Khorshid Irani would often come to the Barucha building, and occasionally Baba would let them accompany the other women on walks that he led throughout the city. At one point, he took them to Victoria Gardens every day for a week. He would move about rapidly doing his inner work, telling the ladies to have a casual look around the gardens. One day he showed them the beach, or showed them the bench, whereas Merwan, he used to sit during the period of his coming down to normal human consciousness. It was the place that a Parsi had misconstrued. It was the place that a Parsi had misconstrued his particular behavior and had him slapped him for staring at his family. Baba was sitting like this in a trance. Baba narrated the incident to the women, laughing about how humorous it seemed now. There were many ants in the Barucha building. Once Mera made tea for Baba and sent it to him. He found an ant on the cup and became annoyed, later explaining to her about being most particular when serving him. Mera quickly learned how careful one should be when offering anything to the master. On another occasion, Baba suddenly felt hungry, and Naja and Mera hastened to prepare something for him to eat. That day, many visitors had come to see the master, and he would ask each, have you had your food? Each person would reply affirmatively. Baba would then state, you are lucky to have eaten. Just look at me and look at my fate. I am hungry, but see how my women disciples care for me? While Naja and Mera hurried to cook his lunch, Baba would send messages to them saying, such and such has come and has eaten, but I am starving and no one cares about feeding me. Baba kept sending them this message every other minute until the food was ready. Hence the women Mandali too were not spared from Baba's teasing. The master would goad them like the men, but in a softer or more subtle manner. Meher Baba also again observed a silence for a week in the Barucha building, ordering no one to enter his room. Gustaji was keeping watch and would hand him a glass of warm sugar water once every 24 hours. Thus Meher Baba had now kept silence 4 times, twice in the Jopti at Mehrabad during May 1924, and in the recent month of November for 1 week. One night in December, a Qawwali program was being held outside the house. Baba listened to the singing the whole night from inside his room. Baba's memory and vocal skill were so acute that the next day he sang the same ghazals in their entirety to the women. Afterward, he declared in a melodious voice, one should get so drowned in the love of the Divine Beloved that one is unaware of anything else. There is no rule underlying this path except for the lover to consider the Divine Beloved's pleasure as his own. In December, Baba traveled southward to Belgaum with only Masaji, and after seemingly aimless wandering through the town, returned to Bombay. However, Baba's travel was never without some spiritual purpose. At times he would travel hundreds of miles on a train, only to return from that very station back to his place of starting without ever stepping out of the train. At other times he would achieve his spiritual work by simply setting foot in a particular place for a few minutes. His work on the inner planes was something quite distinct. The universal work done on the inner planes was invisible and impossible to gauge on a physical level. For instance, the spiritual agent was appointed to look after the affairs of the whole of a city. Communication with this agent by Meher Baba, instructing him regarding the entire population of the city, whether visibly or invisibly done, obviated the necessity of the master having to contact every person individually. Therefore, it was difficult to imagine the real purpose for Meher Baba's travels and his constant sudden changes of plans of his work on a vast scale. So we'll end at page 687, Lord Meher Volume 2, and we'll be back next Tuesday. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Okay, this is the Lord Meher meeting. It's March
25th.
25th, right, thank you. And it's 1997. We're in Volume 2 of Lord Meher, the biography of the age, Meher Baba, by Bal Kalchuri, and we're on page 686. It was during this period that Framaraz Dadachanji began visiting the master regularly and established a close link. Chanji, as he was called, was ordered by Baba to sell his cinema, and after relieving himself of all worldly responsibilities and attachments, come and stay permanently as one of the Mandali. One day, when the master was on a train to Bombay, accompanied by Mara, he told her to massage his feet. She began doing so, and he suddenly said to her, "If you press my feet like this every day, I will make you like Babajan." But after this, during their stay in the Barucha building, there was no possibility of massaging Baba's feet, since he would often be fasting in seclusion, and no one but Gustaji was allowed to go near him. Dina Talati, Suna, and Khorshid Irani would come often to the Barucha building, and occasionally Baba would let them accompany the other women on walks that he led throughout the city. At one point, he took them to Victoria Gardens every day for a week. He would move about rapidly doing his inner work, telling the ladies to have a casual look around the gardens. One day he showed them the best sit during the period of his coming down to normal human consciousness. It was the place that a Parsi had misconstrued his particular behavior and had slapped him for staring at his family.
Oh my goodness.
Baba narrated the incident to the women, laughing about how humorous it seemed now. There were many ants in the Barucha building. Once Mara made tea for Baba and sent it to him. He found an ant on the cup and became annoyed, later explaining to her about being most particular when serving him.
Kathy, you want to move closer? Move closer.
Mara quickly learned how careful one should be when offering anything to the master. On another occasion, Baba suddenly felt hungry, and Naja and Mara hastened to prepare something for him to eat. That day, many visitors had come to see the master, and he would ask each, "Have you had your food?" Each person would reply affirmatively. Baba would then state, "You are lucky to have eaten. Just look at my fate. I am hungry, but see how my women disciples care for me." While Naja and Mara hurried to cook his lunch, Baba would send messages to them saying, "Such and such has come and has eaten, but I am starving and no one cares about feeding me." Baba kept sending them this message every other minute until the food was ready. Hence the women Mandali too were not spared from Baba's teasing. The master would goad them like the men, but in a softer, more subtle manner. Meher Baba again observed silence for a week in the Barucha building, ordering no one to enter his room. Gustaji was keeping watch and would hand him a glass of warm sugar water, once every 24 hours. Thus, Meher Baba had now kept silence 4 times, twice in the Jopti at Mehrabad during May 1924, and in the recent month of November for 1 week. One night in December, a Qawwali program was being held outside the house. Baba listened to the singing the whole night from inside his room. Baba's memory and vocal skill were so acute that the next day he sang the same ghazals in their entirety to the women. Afterward, he declared in melodious voice, "One should get so drowned in the love of the Divine Beloved that one is unaware of anything else. There is no rule underlying this path except for the lover to consider the Divine Beloved's pleasure as his own."
The Divine Beloved's what?
Pleasure as his own.
Pleasure as his own.
In December, Baba traveled southward to Belgaum with only Masaji, and after a seemingly aimless wandering through the town, returned to Bombay. However, Baba's travel was never without some spiritual purpose. At times he would travel hundreds of miles on a train, only to return from that very station back to his place of starting without ever stepping out of the train. At other times he would achieve his spiritual work by simply setting foot in a particular place for a few minutes. His work on the inner planes was something quite distinct. The universal work done on the inner planes was invisible and impossible to gauge on a physical level. For instance, a spiritual agent was appointed to look after the affairs of the whole of a city. Communication with this agent by Meher Baba, instructing him regarding the entire population of the city, whether visibly or invisibly done, obviated the necessity of the master having to contact every person individually. Therefore, it was difficult to imagine the real purpose for Meher Baba's travels and his constant sudden changes of plans, which vitally concerned the results of his work on a vast scale. After 2 months in the Barucha building, the master sent Naja to Pune and instructed Dowlat and Mehra to go to Ahmednagar and stay in Kurushu quarters. On January 25, 1925, he returned to Mehrabad with the men Mandali, and a whole new phase of Meher Baba's activities began. And now we begin the chapter, Mehrabad, the abode of mercy, in the 20s, as you can see, young.
He's 20. He's still with you, Padri, at that time.
Oh, is that the one you painted?
Oh,
That's that face.
You did that?
Yeah, the one at Linda Bukowski's.
Fred,
Uh-huh.
is this the first Lord Mayor meeting?
Oh, yes.
No, this is the third.
Third one.
Yeah, that's in the home of that girl, Linda.
Linda Bukowski.
Yeah, right. I've seen that.
Linda Bailey, her name.
He
used
did
to-
it.
Did you
Oh,
see
really?
it, Fred? The
Billy
big one?
was the one that
I've
painted
never
Big black
been
and
to
white
her
one?
house, no.
Yeah.
I met her in India several times in the early 70s.
She lives in San Pedro.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen Linda since, I think, her husband died.
That's right. She's
a
had
few
fallen
years
back.
back.
She's been not well.
Beginning this chapter on Mehrabad, the abode of mercy, permanent headquarters is entitled. After his return to Ahmednagar, Meher Baba began to refer to Mehrabad as his permanent headquarters, where he would now hold public darshan. Many people of all castes and creeds began to come regularly for his darshan from Arangon, Ahmednagar, and distant places as well. All the men Mandali returned to live in Mehrabad. The Arangon children were especially happy, for they had missed Baba. With his presence there, they were now assured of his entertaining company, as well as having good treats to eat. Once Baba asked the children, "Can you all come here tomorrow afternoon?" One replied, "We cannot come because we have to graze the goats. If we don't, our parents will beat us." Baba told them to tell their parents that he invited them to come if they permitted it. The next day, 30 children from Arangon came to Mehrabad, and Baba bathed each one, dressed them in fine new clothes, and gave them sweets. The poor villagers came to know of this, and soon men, women, and more children came and requested clothing. Baba told them to be patient. A short time passed, and one day he distributed clothes among all in the village and then served a feast. After a while, as the number of children increased, it was proposed to one day open a school for them. During this period, Khorshid moved into Karusha quarters where Mera and her mother, Daulat, were staying. Baba instructed these women to meditate and write the Zoroastrian name of God, Yezdan, over and over again for half an hour each day. They were then to cut the paper into small pieces and roll each piece bearing the name Yezdan into a tiny scroll and save them all. Later he added that the small scrolls would eventually be immersed in the sea. In addition, Baba assigned the women mandali to work of stitching clothes for the children and poor of Arangon. Baba would occasionally call them to Mehrabad, and one day he asked, "How many shirts have you sewn?" They replied that they had made about 50. "Is that all?" he inquired. "Can't you do the work more quickly? By now you should have at least sewn at least 200. On another occasion, when Mera and Daulat were visiting Mehrabad, Baba told them, "If you wish to stay here, you both should cover your heads with shawls and wear long-sleeve blouses." They accepted this order and returned to Ahmednagar. You want to pick it up here?
How do you interpret what you just read about the Parsis? Why would they cover? I mean, I don't understand that. Maybe you should reread that.
Well, do you have a comment on it?
Yeah, where was that? All right. On another occasion, when Mera and Daulat is her mother, of course, were visiting Mehrabad, Daulat, Mera's mother.
Dolat.
Daulat,
yeah.
Thank you. Baba told them, if you wish to stay here, you both should cover your heads with shawls and wear long-sleeved blouses. They accepted this order and returned. So where are they? So they should be in Purda. I mean, no. To cover their head with shawl, that doesn't mean they're in Purda.
No, face. All Indians do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are they that they did this, Fred? I forget where they were. In Mehrabad. Oh, that's interesting. Suddenly he wants them to dress like Iranians.
Iranian, yeah.
Anyway, Sarosh K. Irani's sister, Mota, Mera was invited to the wedding. But because of her austere dress, because she was doing what Baba said, she was ridiculed by the fashionable Parsis attending the lavish ceremony. But ignoring their derision, she faithfully obeyed Baba's orders, not paying attention to what anyone said about her attire. Does that... Meher Baba's 31st birthday was celebrated on February 18th. You see, that's like, usually it's 25th is Baba's birthday. But the 18th is, in 1925, that's when he celebrated it. Hundreds assembled for his darshan. A huge pavilion was erected over the post office veranda and elaborately decorated. I think they have a picture of it. We'll look at it. His parents, Shriar and Shireen, arrived a few days before with his brothers, Behram and Adi, and sister Mani. All of the master's close followers from Bombay, Pune, and Ahmednagar also arrived prior to the celebration. Mera, Daulat, Naja, Aunt Daula, Jamshed's wife, Big Khorshid, Suna, and Small Khorshid. Who do you think is the big Khorshid? The one that's in the compound?
Yeah, it's
that's the big Khorshid, yeah. Suna and Small Khorshid all came in advance and stayed in the post office building, which was now established as the permanent residential quarters for the women Mandalay. That's the post office. Well, we know what that is. It's the tower building. For the men Mandalay, temporary quarters of tin sheds were improvised on the other side of the grounds. A storeroom was built in the post office veranda, and Gustaji was appointed to manage it. During this public celebration, a great feast was served, in which hundreds of people happily participated. There was singing of bhajans and kirtans throughout the whole day, and all had Meher Baba's darshan. So here's the picture of the birthday celebration. We'll pass that around.
Yeah, by the way, the post office was down by the tracks on this side.
Oh,
The tracks.
yeah.
That no longer exists, that dwelling.
No,
But it was
that's
on,
right.
on
But
this side
those
of the
same
tracks.
bricks and those
Yeah.
stones were what? They were. Is that part of the samadhi?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I mean, those.
on this
they're-
last visit,
Yeah.
we were taken on tour of Mehrabad, by Judy, and she
Yeah.
showed us where the post office
She's
is.
become very good that way.
Yeah, she
Oh, yeah.
No,
Judy.
yeah, Judy.
Hard to tell
But
which way
it's-
it's facing. Is it facing north?
See what?
know.
Or,
It's tough.
I think that's facing north or west.
Facing north. Uh-huh. No, those stones from the post office were used very preciously in some, either samadhi, I think the samadhi was where the post office stones went. Okay, so, anyway, you can identify all these people that are in this picture, if you wanted to.
Isn't this the storage room where the tower was built on top? You know, where they used to put all the
Yeah.
slippers and everything? That's
I think you're right. That's right. It's where the women stop and they, yeah, it's where they stop and they take off their slippers. Okay, well, if he were here, he could read. When he gets back,
But
to
you
let him
can't
read.
keep reading.
All the guests departed within 2 days after the birthday, and the regime of work was resumed by the mandali. Mera, Dalit, Naja, and Dawla became the first women mandali to stay permanently at Mehrabad. That's very interesting. Mera, Dalit, Naja, and Dawla. Dawla's the aunt. Gulmai K. Irani's daughters, Paroja and Dali, would come to visit them with their mother. And Dali was later to join the women at the small ashram building. Jamshed's wife, Big Khoshed, this little Khoshed is the one that we know. Jamshed's wife, because little Khoshed never was married, later came for some time. Then Suna and small Khoshed were also instructed to move to Mehrabad before the opening of the school for the Arangawan children in March. The Arangawan children in March, those are the children from the village, of course. And the master always kept the men's and women's quarters separate in the ashram. He would retire inside his jokdi at Lower Mehrabad with the men sleeping nearby, while the women slept in the post office building across the railroad tracks. He would daily visit the women and sit on an empty crate of Brook Bond tea on the veranda of the post office, seldom ever going into their room. Surrounded by his women disciples,
Yellow.
he would relax and sing bhajans with them or request them to tell him humorous stories. Oh, see, he always liked people to tell him humorous stories. I know, because Baba asked me to, and then he said, I didn't know any humorous stories. So Baba said, well, then tell me a religious story.
Oh, so he used to tell religious stories?
Yeah. Well, there were some people, who didn't know a humorous story. So he said, well, and I told him a religious story. You remember one about why did Peter deny you? Why did Peter deny Jesus?
Did you ever hear about Upasni wandering through the wilds of India and discovering the secret city?
Where? Who?
Upasni Maharaj?
Well, no.
He climbed a 10-foot wall of rock and fell in,
Oh.
and they all started to beat him with sticks.
Oh.
And then the head guru was a female, and she came and saved him and said, no, don't hit this guy.
Oh, my
And then he
goodness.
stayed there for a while, and then he left.
No, I never heard that.
Nobody even knew it was there.
That was Upasni Maharaj. Upasni Maharaj.
Did you know that one? That's one of the real tales. It's in print.
Oh, I'm sure. Look at they subjected themselves to every humiliation, every risk. I mean, you know, they're the perfect masters. During one occasion, he asked Mara if she knew a song in English, and if so, to sing it. Mara sang what? You all know what she sang. What did she sing? Swanee, how I love you, my dear old Swanee. I never forget that, and the reason is that Dr. Kenmore would take Baba up on that. And then, whenever for occasion...
He could sing it.
And he sang it very well.
He
had a strong
bellowing,
voice.
booming voice.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that he said the Master's Prayer as loud as he did. Because when I'm very sincere about the Master's Prayer, I can't say it softly. I have to shout it. And I believe Kenmore was that sincere. He was not trying to pose. I knew Kenmore too. Very, very nice. Mary sang the song Swanee, composed by George Gershwin, and Baba asked her to teach it to him. After Mary repeated it, Baba sang the American tune quite beautifully. Can't you just see?
Baba sang it?
Baba sang Swanee, how I love you, my
Still
dear
before the silence,
Swanee.
must be.
Oh, this is before the silence. I would give the world to be among the folks in Dixie. Swanee, I am coming back to Swanee. Mammy is waiting for me, praying the folks up north will see me no more. When I go to the Swanee shore, I will be happy, I will be happy. I love the old folks at home. My mother was a friend of the mother of George Gershwin. She was, she just knew. An interesting incident once occurred between Mara and Upasni Maharaj. Before Mara settled in Mara Baba's, why don't you read now a little bit? Do you mind? I love to read, but I think it's nice. Fred likes everyone to.
Oh, no, but why don't you finish that train of thought?
What's he all right.
I mean, there's plenty of pages to read.
Okay. An interesting incident once occurred between Mara and Upasni Maharaj. Before Mara settled in Mara Baba's ashram, she had lived for some time in Upasni Maharaj's ashram in Sikori. I didn't realize that. You know, that's where let's see, who was his chief nun?
Yeah, the lady, yeah.
What?
Wasn't it Gulmai?
No, that's the mother of Adi.
Adi.
I'll think of it in a minute. I think of her all the time. But anyway, one day in 1922, a Brahmin woman visited Sikori and presented a gold ring to the master. Maharaj did not want it and told the lady, I wear only gunny sack. No clothes adorn my body. He also told Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
No, he did want to tell Mahatma Gandhi.
What did he tell Gandhi?
He dropped the gunny sack right in front of him.
Yeah, he
Who
dropped
did,
the gunny
Upasni?
sack right in front. That's right. He said, and so what do you think of that? Or something
No, he
like
said,
that.
what are you to me?
Yeah, what are you to me?
And
Not
dropped the
Mahatma.
gunny sack.
And Baba asked Gandhi too, are you Mahatma? Which means, very holy. And he said no.
Oh.
How will this golden ring beautify me, an ugly old man?
Yeah.
I wear only gunny sacks.
Itchy ones too.
Oh my God, those are.
However, this lady was so insistent that Maharaj told her put it on my toe.
Oh, the ring on their...
Put it on my toe.
Maharaj to
The
say.
ring,
No,
a
Padri
gold
told
Asti
ring.
Maharaj.
He said, put it on my toe.
Put it on his toe.
Yeah.
She's so insistent.
So maybe that's where toe rings
Yeah.
began. No, just
Toe
kidding.
ring.
No, that's probably was long ago.
Later, Upasni Maharaj devotees were sure the master would give the ring to one of his woman disciples. And each was naturally wishing she would be the one who would receive it, the recipient. As the ladies of the ashram took Maharaj's darshan, hoping in their hearts the master would present the ring to them, he gave the ring to Mehra.
Oh. Oh.
And he said, wear this ring and be careful not to lose it. And I saw that ring.
Oh.
You saw it too.
You saw it? I don't think I
Yeah,
have.
she wore it from that day on.
She wore it?
Yeah.
Maybe I did see it.
We can have attention because now we know. That time we didn't know.
Did you
Yeah.
meet Mara?
Oh, yeah. Mehra give for love to me for Baba.
You met Mara.
Oh, yes, Kate.
Did Gus you met
Yeah.
Mara?
Yeah.
Oh, so you knew, you went
That was the
to
first time I went to India.
in 1980 what?
I was not a Baba lover then.
Well, that was 80,
1988.
88? Oh, a year before.
What about Billy? Did you meet Mara?
Yeah, many times.
Yeah.
5, 6 times I had TV.
Well, she had that ring, everybody. Anyway, one day in 1925, accompanied by Gustaji, Meher Baba came to the post office veranda and, taking his seat on the wooden tea crate, sent word to the women that whosoever possessed a ring should send it to him through Gustaji. So maybe this was a different ring. I know she was one ring she wore forever. One ring, two rings. Gustaji approached Mehra, but she was unable to remove the ring that Upasni had given her from her finger. Unable to remove it from her finger. Big Khoshed was wearing a wedding ring, but she did not wish to part with it and refused to give it to Gustaji. Yet Mehra, with great difficulty, was finally able to extract the ring and promptly gave it to Gustaji. Soon after, Baba brought back that ring that Maharaj had given to Mehra and presented her with another heart-shaped gold ring. Oh yes, that's the one I saw. On which was engraved one word, Meher. Baba put both rings around one of the fingers of her left hand. Oh, he did. See, I knew she had like two rings there. Baba put both rings around one of the fingers of her left hand and told her never to take them off. Both rings. Both rings.
Not even when she washed her hands.
Oh, really?
I mean, no, if you never to take them off, I mean.
No, never to take. That's true.
Never.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I always take my ring off sometimes when I.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like,
They didn't have much bathing water, Fred.
What?
They didn't have much bathing water.
see, I didn't have much bathing water,
No,
so I may as well.
Barely got the hand wet.
Yeah.
The pure one's fate was sealed. Meher was carved forever on her heart, and her heart wept with joy as no other ever would. I'll just finish this.
Well, you know, some people could say that was sort of like the marriage.
Yeah. Oh, it
of
was.
Mara to
Oh, yes.
to beloved
The
Baba.
eternal bridegroom.
Because
Yes.
the ring has some significance. And Upasni was like almost gave her away, like, you know, you give a bride away.
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, just using.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, in the different religions, the nuns, they get a ring, a marriage ring, to the Christ bridegroom, at least.
Wow.
Mehra was destined to become the master's chief woman disciple, One day on the post office veranda, Baba told her the story of Radha and Krishna. As Krishna's love was for Radha, so is my love for you. He's talking to Mary.
Oh, wow.
You love me as Radha loved Krishna. Well, I want to ask Fred something about that. A few days later, Baba declared before all the women Mandalay, Mera is my Radha. Her love is unique. She is most special to me. Now, Fred, Mera told you that she was Baba's Radha.
I tell you, I'm confused over what she said. I was in such a daze. All I remember, this is when you could leave Mehrabad at 6 o'clock. This is 1971, 72. People are leaving. I'm left there on the porch with her alone. You ever feel like you're dreaming? You shouldn't ask something. I said, are you the Blessed Virgin Mary?
What she said?
She said, yes, I was Radha to Krishna and Sita to Ram.
I was like Radha to Krishna.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You put that I was like. I don't remember her saying I was like, but I can't refute what you're saying because,
So
but all I
that's what
remember,
Baba
I
said.
walked away and I said, oh my God, she's the same personage, you know.
No,
I mean,
but it isn't that.
I know, but what I'm trying to say
No,
is
I
the
know,
word
that's- I
like,
know.
though, exemplifies that position
thing, yeah.
in a given incarnation of the God-man. A personage like that is there. But I heard it in my, odd state of mind where I was just overwhelmed. It's the same person, like I was intoxicated. I walked off the porch. Because my mind was thinking, what made you ask that question? Anyway.
Oh, she was, as he said, this is what he said. Now, this is how we remember it. As Krishna's love was for Radha, so is my love for you. It's the same avatar. It's the avatar with a different name, but it's still the divine avatar. You love me as, that's the difference. That's the only word I corrected that. You love me as Radha loved Krishna. Okay, we're almost through here. During this period at Mehrabad, Baba would for some days remain aloof from the public, fasting in seclusion. He would fast on either water or weak, milkless tea. No milk in the tea. Once Baba called Mera and told her, from today you are my orderly. Orderly, you know what orderly means?
No.
Servant.
Oh, servant.
Gustaji was instructed to give Baba's trunk to her, in which all of his personal belongings were kept. That's Gustaji's trunk. Mera was told to prepare and send Baba's tea, wash his clothes, and clean his plate and glass every day. You know, that's what Gustaji had been doing up to then. Gustaji was Baba's orderly, but he gave that job now to Mera. Yeah. Did you want to read?
Okay.
This is from.
If you're ready.
Oh, yeah.
Are you
top of the
finishing the whole
page.
book tonight, Fred?
Oh, we'll just read until we feel tired. We can stop. We don't have to finish it.
That's a very nice setup.
Yeah, we don't have to finish it. It's sort of like just whatever happens. One
Oh,
time
no, it's pretty long.
One time we read like 10 pages because we got into discussion. So the meeting is just to enjoy.
Let's see, where did Adele
Right
let
at the
off?
top.
Oh, just at the top.
Oh,
of
right
the
at the
page.
top
Yeah,
of the
you
page?
begin right
Right,
there.
that's right.
She finished
It
on the bottom
is,
there.
yeah, you know it.
Got it.
That's right. In paragraphs.
Slow me down if I'm going too
Oh,
fast
take
because I
your
drank
time.
coffee.
Take your time.
Valu Pawar. Mayor Baba would come to the ladies' veranda early in the morning. he would call out to Naja, "Hey, Najru, it's past 6, time to awaken."
Can't you hear Baba saying, hey? I think that's strictly Val culture.
Naja would hurry out of bed, and Baba, sitting on the empty tea crate, would melodiously sing, "I will always be the handmaid of my master." Singing this one line, Baba would sometimes dance a few steps, like Krishna with his gopis, women disciples. At other times, when he would sing Tukaram's bhajans, he would appear extraordinarily happy and radiant. However, when his mood would be spoiled by one of the ladies' carelessness, his words were as if thunderbolts were crashing and the heavens were about to fall. Such moments would leave the women awestruck. All 4 sides of the post office were walled off by bamboo screens, making an improvised compound so the women could live in strict privacy. Excuse me. Not one of them and no other men except Baba and Gustaji could enter. Meanwhile, the number of Arangown children increased day by day, and a one-room grade school was started. Arrangements to provide a boarding house for travelers were also in progress at Mehrabad. At this time, Dowla had to leave for Pune because Baba's elder brother, Jamshed, had fallen seriously ill. Dowla had been overseeing the cooking, and Baba informed the other women, "If you're willing to cook for over 100 people every day, then remain here. Otherwise, you should go away." Except for Naja and Dowlat, none of them knew how to cook. Mira and Small Khorshid urged Naja to stay and offered to help her. Naja agreed to take over Dowlat's responsibility, which pleased Baba, and all the women volunteered to help. Only a few children from Arangown were residing at Mehrabad, but the number of men Mandali living there was well over 100. The food would be cooked in enormous pots to handle the number of people. Baba forbade the waste of food, and if he found that there was any left over, Naja would be taken aside and sternly blamed.
That's very interesting.
During this period, a young woman in her late 20s named Valu Pawar was intensely drawn to the master. Soon after meeting Mayor Baba, she surrendered to his spiritual guidance, dedicating all her possessions and property to him. Valu resided in Arangown, but after coming into Baba's contact, she was allowed to move in with the women Mandali at the post office quarters. She was assigned the duty of baking bakri and would also assist Mera in attending to Baba's personal needs. Later, in February 1925, Mayor Baba sent Mera, Naja, and Dowlat to Sikori for a few days. When they arrived, Upasni Maharaj asked Mera where she was now staying. Mera replied, "With Mayor Baba." One of Maharaj's main women disciples at the time, Durgabai Karmarkar, was very fond of Mera and pressed that she remain in Sikori. After some days passed, Baba sent Masaji to Sikori with a letter addressed to Mera stating, "If you wish to stay in Sikori, you may, but I will be happy if you return to Mehrabad." When the three women told Maharaj of their decision to leave, he sharply said in the presence of others gathered there, "What is this? Has this lad Marwan now become a saint? What does he know of spirituality? What have you gained from his hands? If you wish to jump into the ditch, I won't stop you. Leave me and go to him if you insist. But after a while, Maharaj called the three ladies back for a private meeting with him, and then very lovingly said, "You should leave here and go to Merwan. Stay with him. Merwan is mine and I am his. Hold firmly to his feet. After many years, the world will come to know who Merwan really is." The next day, Mira, Naja, and Dowlett returned to Mehrabad, accompanied by Masaji, and their permanent stay with the Lord began. Also during 1925, a respectable elder named Jnaneshwar Ramchandra Shahane, who was a resident of Ahmednagar and owned many farming fields near Arangaon, often came to Mehrabad for Baba's darshan. His son Mohan was suffering from a disease which was not being cured despite the best possible medical treatment. Master about his son's affliction, and Baba advised him to keep his son at Mehrabad, where he would recover. Gradually, Mohan did regain his health. After some time, Kaka Shahani, as he was called, moved to Mehrabad with his entire family, and all began living according to Baba's instructions. Shahani became completely devoted to the Master and surrendered to Baba's guidance for the rest of his life. Baba always cared for the whole family's maintenance, which proved not insignificant since Shahani and his wife had 4 daughters and 3 sons. At Mehrabad, during March 1925, 2 humble Hindu temples were constructed out of bamboo matting. One was meant for the low-caste Harijan people, and the other for higher caste Brahmins. A man named Vishwanath was appointed as the high caste priest. The simple temples had photographs of gurus and pictures of favorite Hindu devas, gods like Ganesh, Dattatreya, and Hanuman, hung on the walls. The photographs of the gurus included Hazrat Babajan, Upasni Maharaj, and Mayor Baba. The children of Arangaon would worship and sing bhajans in the Harijan temple. During Hindu festivals, both temples were decorated and the holy days were observed with great ceremony and devotion. Saturday, March 21st, was the Parsi holiday of Jamshed-e-Navroz, the day when the sun enters the vernal equinox. Many Zoroastrian devotees came to Mehrabad and a grand feast was held. But more importantly, that day marked the opening of Meher Charitable Dispensary and Hospital.
What day? Excuse me. What day?
March 21st, 1925.
Yeah.
These facilities were rooms located in the mess quarters, which the Mandali had repaired in 1923 and again during the Gamela Yoga phase in 1924, when the building was known as the Dharmashala. As requested by the Master, Rustam K. Irani and his father performed the opening ceremony of the dispensary and hospital. Many of the local villagers assembled and were informed that all persons suffering affliction, no matter of what religion, caste, or creed, would be treated free of charge. Those afflicted with disease who required hospitalization would be kept at Mehrabad, and all arrangements would be provided for their food and clothing. A local doctor, Y.G. Karkal, was appointed to direct the hospital. Some of the men Mandali were selected as his assistants, and they had orders to do any necessary work to keep the hospital functioning smoothly and the facilities immaculate. Padri became the dispensary's pharmacist, and Pendu served as its supervisor. After the opening ceremony, Baba distributed sweets and told the villagers, "Take care of your health. Don't fall ill if you can avoid it. But if you do fall sick, don't hesitate to come here for medicine and treatment."
This was located where?
Lower Mehrabad.
Lower Mehrabad?
Yeah. Meher Free Dispensary. Oh, Meher Charitable Dispensary.
Yeah, that's how it started, huh?
Yeah. Fred?
Here's what, we have, if that's our model, we have
Fred and Adele, right? Yeah. You want to let them look at the picture? There's the dispensary, and there's the picture.
We should feed the people, have hospital care. We have.
Adele, you want to see the pictures
We
real
gotta
quick
be born
before
again.
Gus goes on?
Kathy, we have to get born and come back many times. Dharmashala uses the men's and unwear's medical dispensary hospital function. This is Lower Mehrabad. This is where Muhammad, what is it called today? Where Muhammad is. With most.
Mandalay Hall.
No, Mandalay Hall is where the Mehrabad are. But is this another Mandalay?
They call it a hall essentially. Mehrabad Hall.
Lower Mehrabad. I think they just say Lower Mehrabad. Yeah. I couldn't hear.
Yeah, that's the old name.
She said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a Mandalay Hall type name too, though.
Yeah.
Something
I
like
think
that.
it's
But it's not Mandalay Hall in Arizona. It's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does have a name, though. I think
has
it
a
does.
name. Okay. So, we're back.
Gus is going
Gus is
to
reading.
take
Oh, yes,
over now.
Gus, top here? At
No,
Mehrabad?
bottom paragraph, right-hand page.
At Mehrabad.
Yeah.
Right here?
Yeah.
This one.
Right here.
From that day.
From that day, a new era of increased activity dawned at Mehrabad. In the beginning, patients numbered up to 40 people every day, but the number eventually rose to almost 125. The number of patients staying in the hospital rose from 5 per day to 20. During the next 15 months, almost 7,500 patients were treated or hospitalized, and in some cases, seemingly terminal diseases were miraculously cured. Surgery was performed at Mehrabad. A special room was built after a year for cataract eye operations, and several people who had lost their sight had returned to Mehrabad.
Excuse me, who's the doctors doing this?
They mentioned
In the 70s, it was
Here,
Baruch.
Dharmashala,
Yeah.
Mehrabad.
Dr. Goer.
Didn't Baruch run the free dispensary in the 70s?
Yeah.
But I'm saying back to this 20s here.
Oh, I don't know.
No, in the
20s.
70s it was. I was there in the 70s.
They don't mention Dr. Goher.
No, they don't. But they did
Wonder if
say
they
that the medical aspect of it, Gus. They'd say the men who were in charge of the medical decision. They did say that earlier. You read it. You read
Yeah,
it.
it was Dr.
He read it.
it's over
Sarosh
here.
was one of them.
What's that?
It's,
Sarosh and someone else.
It was Y.G. Karkal.
Oh, but
Karkal.
Local, yeah.
He was the lead doctor in the
Doctor.
beginning.
Why do you
And then they-
I don't know
they
how long
mention-
he lasted. Have no idea.
I have no idea what.
Maribad was closed several
Decisions were
times
made.
over the years, though. Remember?
74 years ago, 73 years
Yes,
ago.
many. There was Dr. Alu Kumbata. She died, but she did a lot of medical assistance in. You remember Alu Kumbata?
Oh, yeah.
She'd come from
She was
Arundel.
so nice
She
to
was
me.
the head of the tubercular hospital.
Yes,
Yeah.
She'd
yeah, she
come
said-
around,
She
yes.
told me one time.
Oh,
she came to Arti all the time in the
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah.
Evening Arti.
Sometimes
yeah.
by bicycle. By
Yeah, evening Arti. She wouldn't make the morning
She
Arti.
died.
She'd make evening.
She was very helpful to me when I lived in India. When I lived in just that short period. Very helpful.
You know what happened? 2-3 years ago, I was there, Mrs. Alu. They told me, when you come this time, bring for me almond. You know,
Oh, yes.
almond, yeah.
Yes.
And I took it, a big bag like that, some of them.
Yes.
And then I gave it to her. And then she said, oh, too much. Little bit, in the end, she gave it to me back. But I couldn't eat, I don't eat almond. I then gave it to Dr. Gohar when we went to Mehrazad. Mani was there, so. And Mani told me, how come you bring almond for me? I said, yeah, doctor.
Okay? The once quiet atmosphere in Mirabai was rapidly changing. The number of Aaron's own children were increasing, and on March 25th, 1925, the Harzat Babajan school was open for them. Marathi was still graded, and elementary English was also taught. In the beginning, Arjan Superkar was appointed director. Vishnu Dorukar became the teacher of children. Jashi and Bapu Gahili taught the Martha and Brahman children's classes. Besides teaching, Arjan and Vishnu were to look after the children's food and health. At first, the school was made of simple bamboo matting, but later it was expanded into a high school with walls of tin sheets. More teachers were employed as the necessity arose. The first teachers included Pandurang S. Deshmukh, whom Baba called Pandova, Gaikiwad Jagirdar Kisan Yeshwant L. and Bao Saheb Mehendarj, Goma G.K. Patak Raj. I don't know, those are all Indian
Nobody can
names.
pronounce those names.
Hey, Rajub, Shindu of Baba's Mandali. In addition to Arjan and Vishnu, Chanchi was also ordered to serve as teacher. Eventually, there were almost 200 children in the school. After a while, a separate accommodation was made for girls' school, and one woman teacher was appointed. The girls' schools later shifted to Arangan. The Hazrat Babajan school was located in the same area as the women's Mandali's quarters, some distance from the post office. Excellent primary instruction was offered in boarding house, for the children were also open. The children who lived there were kept well fed, well clothed, and well exercised and happy. Their books and writing materials were provided free of charge. Separate arrangements were made for the Harijan children because of the prevailing prejudices of the times. They had to be taught in separate rooms and eat their meals separated from the Brahmin children. Mayor Baba disliked the social conditions and pressures that kept the Harijans ostracized from the rest of the children. Though he complied with them, the children themselves were quite aware of caste distinction and would line up for meals according to the strict social rank. The high caste Brahmins were always first in line, then the Harijan children were at the end.
You know who they are, don't you? The Harijan children.
No.
They're the very lowest class, the untouchable.
They were low caste.
The untouchable.
Oh, that's what they
The
were?
Brahmins and
The high caste.
they don't even, not even their shadow can touch. So Baba changed
Yeah, I know
all
there's several different castes in India.
Yes, yes,
There's also gypsies there.
yes,
Oh, yeah, we saw the gypsy in
yeah.
Delhi.
Even among the Harijans, there were strict social delineations of who socially higher. For example, a tailor's son was considered higher than a butcher's son and acted accordingly. But gradually, day by day, Mayor Baba unified them as the awareness of the equality of all was brought home to their parents. Facilities for every type of game and sports were provided, and Baba himself sometimes participated. Prizes were presented to the winners of athletic contests, and awards were given to the students who excelled on the regularly scheduled examinations. Mayor Baba had his eye on the conduct of the dispensary, hospital, and school, and this proved particularly stressful for the Mandalay. The master would violently find some fault with Vishnu's manner of performing his duties in the school, would harshly scold him in front of all the students. Pendu was found at fault for not keeping the hospital clean enough. Each morning, Baba would inspect the children to see that they were properly washed and dressed. The poorest among them were the Harijans. By circumstances and habit, the Harijans were most unclean, and Baba would personally emphasize to them to observe cleanliness by regularly washing with soap, changing with clean clothes, and washing their hands before eating. The master personally would daily help wash their clothes. The Harijan boys seldom had haircuts, so every few weeks, Gustaji and Bahamaji became their barbers.
Oh, Baba wouldn't approve of all these long-haired men.
I never seen a long-haired Indian.
No.
But you can't keep your hair as clean.
Yeah.
Baba's for cleanliness too.
When Mayor Baba was engaged in bathing the boys, if a stranger happened to come for his darshan, he would tell him to first lend a hand in the work. Some persons would readily comply, whereas others would hesitate even to touch these Harijans. Mayor Baba would then remark, if you have come for the darshan of God, these Harijan children are my God. You are welcome at Mehrabad. If you are willing to serve them, else you should worship your own God in your house or temple. Here, the only God you will find are these children. Strangers were wonderstruck by the sagacity of the Master's words. Although inwardly wanting to help, they would not bring themselves to offer a kind hand, fearful of being ridiculed by society. Before departing, they would again ask for Mir Baba's darshan, and he would tell them, Taking me as God, and you have come for my darshan, but you are unable to serve those whom I serve. So why this hypocrisy of asking for darshan? Whomsoever your God may be, go to him for his darshan. I'm telling you, the only God here is the children whom I worship. Outwardly, the amount of work Mayor Baba did for the upliftment of this downtrodden class does not compare with the work done by other larger institutions in India. From the spiritual point of view, the outcome of his work with these improvised children gradually manifested in the course of time until the untouchables began to gain an equal footing in Indian society. Mayor Baba's work was totally distinct from the work of any social institution. There was no comparison between spiritual and materialistic help. His effort on behalf of the lower classes in India, whose plight was truly pitiable, were beyond the domain of worldly materialism.
You're tired enough, huh?
No, it's a,
Well,
besides
it's
music,
9 o'clock. It's just that that's a very interesting part. You know, that whole thing has happened in India. There's quite a revolution there of the opportunities that have been given to the lower classes is a little bit like affirmative action in this country. It's just gone the other way. I know I haven't heard the Mandali complain about that.
really,
But because, like middle-class people who apply for scholarships, they don't get it as easy because they have so many of the lower class asking for it, and they give the preference to that. Well, yeah, the last time I was in India, I heard that complaint. It went the other way around now. A little bit like that. A little bit.
okay?
Yeah.
I heard this from some of the Mandalay.
Okay. Besides music and singing programs in Mehrabad, Baba would frequently send to Bombay for films, which Shanji and Naval Talari would show on a wall at the post office building. Many villagers would attend the films, screened outdoors under the stars. In this way, besides providing a modern means of entertainment for the villagers, Baba would use this medium of entertainment to rally simple people towards him and give them the opportunity of his sahavas or intimate company. During this period, at every religious holiday, great crowds would assemble in Mehrabad, giving it the appearance of a small township. Mayor Baba arranged for children and adults to hear kirtans by D.M. Angal, a pleader. Angel started visiting Mehrabad every Sunday to recite poetry and stories of traditional lore from Hindu mythology, which delighted all during Hindu holiday celebrations. Ango would also be called to entertain the crowd with kirtan songs. In Hinduism, Thursday is the traditional day for worshiping one's guru. Every Thursday, Haridas Bhau would visit Mehrabad and sing hymns to praise of God, accompanied by music. He was followed by a blind singer from Ahmednagar named Bhau Sahib Wanjari, who became a regular visitor at Mehrabad. Wanjari would sing the bhajans at the top of his voice with all his heart. Hence, Baba would always ask him to sing. Once Wanjari pleaded with Baba to give him sight for just half a minute so that he could see his only son. To appease him, Baba promised, "Yes, I will. Just be patient and wait." Although Wanjari never regained his sight, he lived a life of inner contentment under the Master's guidance.
Okay, thank you. I have to go.
Yeah, me too.
And
That's enough for
really,
you.
yeah. There were 3 girls who came to the yard sale that seemed to have known you. I meant to tell you that. Because they knew Mayor Baba. So they said, well, I said, how did you know Mayor Baba? They said, well, we know Fred from the forum.
Oh, really?
That was interesting.
Oh.
Thank you so
From the
much,
forum?
Fred.
That's
Yeah, I didn't get their names because they were looking around, and by the time I wanted to ask them their names, they just left.
Oh. That's strange. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, anyway, I think.
You start, Fred.
Okay, Jai Baba, this is April 1st.
April Fools.
Wow, we're really here though. We're at the Avatar Mayor Baba Center, a new place at 1214 South Van Ness. It's the Lord Me here. Tuesday night meetings. Tamara and Billy are here, and myself. And we're at the end of volume 2, page 702. Billy, why don't you start reading at the top there, besides.
Over here on 703?
Right.
On April 13th, okay. Besides music and singing programs at Mehrabad, Baba would frequently send to Bombay for films, which Kanji and Naval Talati would show on a wall at the post office building. Many villagers would attend the films, screened outdoors under the stars. In this way, besides providing a modern means of entertainment for the villagers, Baba would use this medium of entertainment to draw these simple people toward him and give them the opportunity of his sahavas, or intimate company.
This is 1925.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're showing movies on the outside wall.
I love it.
God, I didn't know that.
Wow.
During this period, on every religious holiday, great crowds would assemble in Mehrabad, giving it the appearance of a small township. Meher Baba arranged for the children and adults to hear kirtans by D.M. Angal and Pleader from Ahmednagar. Angal started visiting Mehrabad every Sunday to recite poetry and stories of traditional lore from Hindu mythology, which delighted all. During Hindu holiday celebrations, Angal would be called to entertain the crowd with his kirtan songs. In Hinduism, Thursday is the traditional day for worshipping one's guru. Every Thursday, Haridas Bhau would visit Mehrabad and sing hymns in praise of God, accompanied by music. He was followed by a blind singer from Ahmednagar named Bhau Sahib Wanjari, who became a regular visitor of Mehrabad. Wanjari would sing the bhajans at the top of his voice with all his heart, hence Baba would always ask him to sing. Once Wanjari pleaded with Baba to give him sight for just half a minute so that he could see his only son. To appease him, Baba promised, "Yes, I will. Just be patient and wait." Although Wanjari never regained his sight, he lived a life of inner contentment under the Master's guidance. Thus, through different mediums, Meher Baba attracted many different types of people, gracing them with the opportunity of basking in the rays of his divine radiance. One such festive holiday was Lord Ram's birthday, which was celebrated in Mehrabad on April 2nd.
April 2nd. That's today.
Ram's birthday!
Today, because we're here, they're there. You know that? Read that again, because it's April 2nd in India right now.
Thus, through different mediums, Meher Baba attracted... one such festive holiday was Lord Ram's birthday, which was celebrated in Mehrabad on April 2nd.
Which is today, right now then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because right now it's
Jai
in the
Ram.
morning, Jai Baba.
Jai
Right
Ram.
now in India it's about 9:30 in the morning in India.
Wow, that's right. So isn't that funny?
Everybody's at breakfast, eating breakfast.
Hey, Baba.
Hey, Gus. You know,
How are
an
you,
interesting
Gus?
thing is that's who I followed before I followed Baba was Ram.
Oh, that's cool. See, and that's who
I
appeared
love
to us
Ram.
was Hanuman.
No, I've read.
Would you rather sit here?
No, that's all right over here.
Because I'm fine sitting in a chair if you'd
Only for
rather.
lazy people.
Is it?
So it's Ram's birthday.
It's Ram's birthday today.
Ram's
Hey,
birth
Ram.
was then celebrated, after which Baba handed out the prasaded sweets. In the afternoon, Abdur Rehman, Ghani's brother from Lanavla, delighted all by singing qawwalis.
That's on the way.
We had the best Indian food I've ever eaten. We stopped for a meal in Lanavla.
At the 5-star hotel.
At the 5-star hotel.
In
Have you ever
Monty's
been there?
Swanee car where her body had been.
We were in the
No, I
Swanee.
passed right through Lovalva, and I saw this 5-star hotel.
Unbelievable
Is it a
food.
nice hotel?
And they were shooting a movie when we went in there.
Yeah, it's
Also-
off the road. You go off the main road and go down this
Yeah,
little
sort of
road.
like a
Resort.
getaway. People like you'll go there from the
Like
city.
a double
Exactly.
tree or
They,
something.
yeah, they think they're really like they think
Like
they're
the
really
billboard.
really on vacation when they go there.
No, it's really amazing, and we ate this food.
Oh, the
The
best
best
Indian
Indian
food we
food
had in
I've
Ever
ever
India.
carried, I imagine.
Yes, we ate
They had both. They had
But it
both.
was-
We ate
was
vegetarian.
delectable.
We ate all vegetarian.
Wow.
But they had.
You don't remember the name, do you? It's just called a 5-star hotel.
We'll have to remember.
I'll tell you, if you ever want to go there, just tell Pat that you want
But
to
it
go.
was a 5-star hotel.
Yes.
5-star hotel.
And it
Wow.
was delicious. Truly.
Delicious. A film depicting the life story of the Hindu perfect master Tukaram was shown at night. The following
Jai
day.
Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Oh, wow. You look
How are
nice.
you?
Jai Baba.
Yeah, thank you. I look tired, I know.
No, you don't.
No,
You look
no.
great.
No.
Really?
No, you look
You
great.
look like very happy in Baba's love.
You always look beautiful in Baba's
Thank
love.
you very much. Thank you.
The following day, a great feast was served to almost 5,000 people.
And Narabah?
Yeah, Mirabai.
Wow.
Many people
On
from
Ram's birthday?
Yes. You know,
Today
during
is
this
Ram's
time,
Today's Ram's birthday in India.
April 2nd.
April 2nd.
In India, it's second now. So.
A second,
you know,
yeah.
during the 20s, I mean, there were like 500 people that lived at Mirabai full time.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it was a
Well,
thriving.
The post office was on this side of the tracks.
Yeah.
Did you ever go on the tour with
Yeah, I went on that
Julie?
trip. Yeah.
She took us this most recent time and said, "This is where the post office was." I said, "Really?" It's
And then they
gone
took
now.
it apart.
Wow.
Well, they used all the stones to make the samadhi.
That's right.
Wow.
All those stones that make the
They came
samadhi,
from the post
they were
office.
the
Oh, yeah,
post
yeah,
office where the
from
women
Samadhi,
used
yeah.
to stay in the
From
early
post
days.
office.
For Korshed, right, you understand that? For
Baba
Korshed
said- Baba
and
said
Mara, and they used to stay
Baba
there.
ordered it because from
Yeah,
that
and
was
he
his
called it the
command.
dome. It was called the
It
dome.
was called the dome then.
Until he dropped his body, the
That's
samadhi
That's
was
why we
called
like the dome for
That's why I
that.
like the dome.
We do
When
too.
you say the dome, somebody says sanctuary, somebody says chapel, somebody says
Chapel is no good.
No,
Chapel.
Chapel's not good. I really
Chapel
like the
is
dome.
Christian.
I like the dome.
The dome
The
because
dome. I
it's
like the
so
dome
religious.
because the dome to me is sort of, it also is a lightness about it. It isn't so
It's lightness.
sanctimonious.
Yeah.
Dome
Yeah.
is like, dome's almost humorous.
Exactly.
Well, you know what?
Dome,
And that's what
dome.
Baba called. There's a
Your
beautiful
dome head is
picture.
Huh.
Baba called it the dome. The samadhi. Up until he dropped his body, it wasn't the samadhi because he
The
wasn't
dome?
there. It
He
was
called
the
it the
dome.
dome.
Ah.
It was called the dome. And I think this place called the dome because I think anytime you creep in with any religious connotation, I've been harping on this
I know, but
for
it's
a
true.
while.
I
I've been
agree with
harping
you.
on this,
Yeah,
but
that's a
when,
good point.
but when Nancy Marijuana met Baba, I was grilling her on it. I was at her house a few weeks ago, and I was just saying, what was it like and everything. And one point she really brought up, and it wasn't because I was asking her, she goes, you know, one thing that really struck me was that any time everybody around him was starting to get either too serious or pious or acting real spiritual, he would break it up. He would do something funny. He would make something happen. He would, you know, say something. You know, he never liked that energy to start happening, that real
Yeah, a little
pretentious.
holy, pretentious.
That
yeah.
kind of holy pretentious. He liked it light
Baba.
and happy. Baba. This is what Nancy Brown, when she met Baba in 60.
Our Nancy, my
Yes.
Yeah, she met Baba.
Nancy, she always keeps it quiet because she doesn't want people to add up the years. You know what I mean? Because if you say, you know,
Yeah.
you see,
'Cause that was 64,
I'll never
right?
forget. Yeah, no, 62.
62.
I'll never forget Buddha Night at the Center. Rob Thornburn said to Nancy, Nancy,
57
you
or
met Baba in 62. That means you must be
65.
72, 82, 92.
She's
My
almost
God,
60, I
Nancy,
think.
how old were you?
Oh, my
Were you
God.
18 when you met Baba? That'd make you 53. Or were you 25? That'd make you 6. You Yeah, and so Nancy, we got saw Nancy.
Oh my
She
God.
says, "Excuse me," and she excused
Oh
herself.
my God.
But poor Nancy, because Nancy's very sensitive, very sensitive
Yes.
to that. Nancy's happy if you call her 39. You know, this. She wants to be forever 39.
39.
And she has a glut.
Like me, at
I
10
think-
years, I was 33. I was 33. I was afraid people say that 40. They think it's 43. My hand was became 33 for 10 years.
Yeah, but you look very good for your age. You're what, 50 something?
50, yeah, 50 something. But,
No,
TV.
How old are you?
54.
No, are you 50?
Yeah, yeah,
No way.
53.
No.
Just swear to God, I appeared at my birthday. Today, that third of
You're
April.
50 and you're
God is
74.
74.
So you're
73
not
actually.
You're 20 years difference?
No, it's not 20 years.
Oh!
Yeah, that's you are. Tell me how much.
You know, Kathy, you're
No, no, tell him, tell
She's a
him.
good actress.
No.
She's convincing
No,
me.
please ask him, ask him.
Maybe 15.
No, swear to God, because you know that you are 20. That tells why I bring my birth certificate. You bring two.
Oh, forget it. I don't know.
1 year.
What's
Swear
the
to God.
difference?
Oh, Iranian
Age
years.
is only
No, no, no,
You're
no,
53
no, no,
Iranian years
no, no.
times
No,
3
Baba.
makes you 80.
She's in the 50s, period.
No, no,
Oh, she's in
53.
her
I have.
late 50s.
I bring my birth certificate.
No,
He's
Nancy Merriman's older than you.
21
Oh, you
years.
don't want to
You
argue.
know, as soon as you get in the car, she's going to argue with me. I know.
Oh,
Swear
okay.
to Baba,
Okay.
he is.
Yeah, okay. You're
You're 70
So
how
you're
old?
20 years different.
75.
You're 20
You
years
ask her,
different.
don't ask me. I don't say
You're
nothing.
75. Wow, you got a young chickadee.
74.
2 years.
You got
Mama.
your-
I was just
Wow,
74.
You were off the cradle with this one. You got a young.
What day is your
You were off the
birthday?
cradle. You were a baby.
What day?
Baba,
16.
even his sisters told him, how come you got young chick for yourself?
Well, wait, as soon as that, my birthday right now, I'm a year
I know.
older.
10 years
Good.
ago.
Kathy?
But you love me. I like you, whatever you are. Even 22-year older. I like you because
Look.
the way you
Give
are.
me a
that's
number.
sweet.
I know that.
That's sweet.
Eventually, you're going to become 70 like me,
Of course,
75.
I
pretty
wish
soon.
you be a
You
99 year
you
old.
know, you know,
I hope so.
Kathy, every
That's
week,
right, I hope
every
so
week
too.
you bring us in laughter. Last week, just as the Gigi's here, Kathy mentioned something about our house. We have a water
Toilet.
bowl in the bathroom upstairs, a green bowl where Gatsby is water.
Yeah.
So during a party,
I thought-
Kathy thought that water bowl was an Iranian or Indian
to wash yourself.
water to wash your rear end when you
I was
go
doing all the
pooping.
time in the house.
So she was using it for the entire day as a wash basin
Yeah.
for her, after her.
And I said, I brought something
And-
else
and
to
so-
be here. I brought
and
something
so
else.
I wanted to know why, because I'm going in there during the party, and I says, "Oh God,
Wait, I'll
somebody
show
must
you.
have, somebody must have knocked the water
Oh
over
God, Kathy.
and knocked the bowl over on the floor because it's empty." But then I find out now Kathy was emptying it when she was, cleaning. but the Indian style bathroom. But now she's brought a water
Cup?
thing. No, it's a
I brought something here the
somebody
other
took
day.
it. Yeah,
That's
no.
for bathroom.
Well, they thought
With the nozzle.
No, she's brought what you
They
water
put water
plants
the
with.
plant.
And she brought
I
it
said,
for this
use that
bathroom
one.
here, but
It's
somebody
easy.
must have thought that you use it to water with.
Uh-huh.
Harry was watering the garden
Oh, okay
with.
then. Use it. I love it. I
Now
told,
this is what Baba
yes, I
loves.
told them.
Baba loves this kind of
But
stuff. Baba loves
Kathy was watering something.
I told them don't wash with the like Indian. It's not clean. I
Oh,
brought
God.
something else for you guys.
Oh, Baba,
Like parent has in
Baba.
his house with the in the bathroom. He says, what I have? I said the bowl and the water.
She used the bowl, the
They
dog
said
bowl
it's
to
for
wash
dog. It's not for you.
You got to tell Bao that
I know.
story when Bao
I
comes.
know.
Bao
You're
will
gonna
love
love that.
Oh my God,
Oh, Kathy, you're the best. You're
I
the
thought
best.
Every week
India,
she has a
Moscow
new
did
story.
She
that.
does. That's the
And
best.
I thought we read book, all the book was about that again. Bathroom, Baba with bathroom, Baba. Isn't it
I
so?
know.
For whole page. We were reading,
Yeah, we were reading
that
last
story
week
for
about
Baba's.
Bob. It coincidentally coincided with her story.
Can
but-
you believe it?
but
Accidentally
then Gus, I don't know, were you at the center, the Lord Meher night about, 6-7 months ago, and Gus was reading, and he was reading the part about
Name?
getting God realization, and then we started kidding Gus and saying, Saint Gus,
Yeah.
you're going to get God realization, and he says, well, I better not, because if I
She
do,
takes it away from
she's
me.
going to take it from me, because she's going to want it, she won't let me have it.
Yeah, you just said
I
that.
love that.
Yeah.
That's cute.
And Gus was cute about
Yeah.
that. Anyway, Smelling the bird?
No.
That was fun. But you always bring a lighter side, Kathy.
That's great. We love it.
We love cats.
Yes, we do.
I love you. All of you.
On April 13th, Baba was about to proceed to Bombay. A villager from Wolkin named Padri came to Mehrabad very anxious and frightened. He had been bitten by a rabid dog. Baba canceled his trip and took the man to Dr. Karkal, telling him to provide Padri with the best treatment. Rustam was then sent to Wolkin to find out if anyone else had been bitten. Rustam found out that the dog had run away and no one else had been hurt. Baba warmly consoled Padri and the next day had him transferred to the Ahmednagar Civil Hospital. Baba made all the arrangements for Padri's care and told him not to be afraid, assuring him he would be well treated. After some time, Padri returned to his village, hale and hearty. From such endearing incidents, the simple farming villagers came to love Meher Baba tremendously, knowing that they would be looked after by the master. When the hospital first opened, Dr. Karkal could not understand why the master suggested certain medicines for different patients. He would think Meher Baba's prescriptions were quite wrong and inappropriate under the circumstances, for the master would suggest rather peculiar medicines for certain types of illnesses.
At times, Dr. Karkal became annoyed with the situation and would wonder, is Meher Baba the doctor here, or am I? But he was indeed astonished when he realized that all the patients who followed the master's method of treatment had recovered. In such cases, however, Karkal was certain the recovery was solely due to Meher Baba's blessings. Thereafter, in serious cases, Karkal did not hesitate to consult the master about what treatment to administer. When a patient survived a critical illness, a special celebration would be arranged in his or her honor, and Baba would compliment Karkal, Padri, and Pendu. On April 14th, Meher Baba left for Bombay to purchase khaki material for the children's clothes. Upon his return to Mehrabad, he immediately went to the hospital and inspected every patient and worker. After careful inspection of the hospital and its management, he went to the school where he inquired about the children's health, food, and studies. He then consulted with the Mandali about any problems that might have arisen in his absence. Only after he attended all these matters did Baba relax after the tiresome journey. Thus, the master was most mindful of every particular detail concerning life at Mehrabad. He would not tolerate the slightest laziness or carelessness on any worker's part. A local tailor named Waman was hired to stitch the khaki clothes for the children. Baba insisted the tailor cut the cloth in his presence, making certain the man did a proper job. Because of his hurry to return to Mehrabad, Baba did not keep a meeting with the Munshi Rahim in Bombay. Munshi Rahim. Munshi became so disturbed after Baba did not show up that he stopped eating. News of his fast reached the master 5 days later. Solely because of Munshi's situation, Baba once again left for Bombay. But before departing, he asked the Mandali what special things could he bring for them. Such simple acts of kindness toward his men and women disciples touched them deeply and kept them at his command under all circumstances. Baba visited with Munshi for 2 days. After consoling him, Baba persuaded Munshi to start eating again. When Baba returned to Mehrabad, he was informed that a student was ill and he promptly went to the hospital. After seeing the boy, he inspected matters at the school. Vishnu had asked him to bring samosas, spicy vegetable patties, from Bombay, and Baba distributed them to all. Vishnu's broad smile was evidence of his gratitude. For several days, the men Mandali had been talking in the car. I think that's how you say it. They had concluded that the master loved Arjun more than any one of them. They had observed that when Baba ate his food, he would always give leftovers to Arjun, and it was obvious that Baba had established some special bond with him. At the time, however, Baba did not mention anything particularly special about Arjun. Soon after, a situation arose which revealed how Baba felt about Arjun. One day when he was inspecting the school, Baba suddenly turned to Vishnu and demanded, "Take that stick lying on the ground and strike me on the hand with it." He held out his palm to Vishnu. Horrified, Vishnu replied, "If you order me to do such a thing, I will commit suicide." Baba then said the same to Rustam, who replied, "I would prefer to leave Mehrabad than to strike you." Baba then called for Arjun, who was always doing some work. In a most serious tone, he told Arjun to strike his hand. Arjun at once picked up the stick and struck Baba. Meher Baba then explained, "This is love. He who values my word loves me the most." Pointing to Vishnu and Rustam, he added, "You love your own feelings and personal fancies more than the worth of my words. This is the reason why I love Arjun more, and even he has only recently begun to understand the importance of carrying out my orders." Obeying Meher Baba's instructions, the villager from Arangan, Sidhu Campbell, returned to Meherabad after working for a year in Bombay. Upon his arrival, Baba asked him what he would do now. Sidhu replied, "Whatever you tell me to do." Baba said, "I can use you here, but you must not ask me any questions, and you cannot even ask for wages. You must leave your maintenance to my discretion. But as soon as you accept employment under me, you will have to do the work assigned to you." Upon Sidhu's full acceptance of these conditions, Baba asked, "Would you even work as a sweeper and clean the toilets?" Sidhu hesitated before answering, and Baba said, "Don't think about it. If you won't do such work, I will do it."
Oh.
Soon after, the master walked to the hospital. Sidhu followed him. Once inside, they found that a patient had soiled his bed, and Baba began to clean it. Baba turned to Sidhu and said, "Don't worry. If any patient makes a mess in his bed, I will clean it. You need not bother." At that moment, Sidhu felt very ashamed of himself.
I look upon this and I almost say, "What would I have done?"
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
I don't think I'd have the guts to clean somebody. But maybe if Baba did it, I would do it.
I wouldn't want to do it, but
I think you would do it though, because Baba would.
If Baba did it, I would definitely do it,
Yeah.
because I'd be overwhelmed by, cleaning a man's mess, a person's mess.
You don't even know.
You don't even know. Just with his compassion, just with his understanding of what he's doing. He knows he's dealing with a divine being, the soul in that body, and the ignorance, we look upon it as an individual who is just whatever.
that was his.
That is very touching, isn't it? Our Baba.
That was it's kind of like a metaphor for what he was doing, cleaning up our mess.
Yeah.
That's what his job is. That's what Baba's function.
You see, if this is given out to general information to people about Baba's life, it's mind-boggling to the average spiritual.
No, you can't. Those I have to say, those aren't good books to give people who aren't
too intimate.
Yeah, they are.
They're too much. It's too much.
It is too much.
There is stuff in there that's too much about it.
Yeah.
And especially
You
when
have
it
to
gets to
love Baba.
World War
Right.
II, and he talks about Hitler being the perfect person,
Right,
playing his role perfectly, and people cannot deal
They
with
can't
that.
handle that.
No.
People cannot deal with that.
Because they're not evolved enough to understand the way a master works.
And I don't think it's doing Baba a
People are
service
more
to
into the
talk about
gross
that or
world.
spread that out,
That's
and so
true.
people are drawn
But you
to
know
it
what's
of their own.
amazing on the play of life, as Shakespeare calls our life, the play, the stage, is that we get so involved, but yet as actors, for instance, a good example, get older, all of a sudden you see, like, think of Paul Newman or Redford, you don't think about them in the same way you used to, because as they get older, they start to fade away, and the current Nicolas Cages and all these other actors who are current now getting their awards, these new actors, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, sure, they're honored by their peers in a certain way, but people in their mind and dealing with life, everybody wants to deal with the stage in such a serious tone, thinking it's so real, but then all of a sudden they disappear too. All these people, these zealots and everybody else, you see what I'm saying? So they may be criticizing you for your stand and believing this or that.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying? Is
Like
that-
Meherana. Mm-hmm.
But it's all passing. So Baba basically in this example here is saying, hey, listen, it's all passing, and I'm showing you that it is all this. Well, in Bao's song, remember? Remember he even says you are toilet, you are...
Oh, yeah.
Remember that you are dog,
dog,
you are bee,
monkey,
you are
everything,
monkey.
yeah.
And so remember he said some Indian
You are
people
Laos,
took offense to that.
everything.
Remember that you are this, you are that, you are my toilet, you are my, my stomach gurgling, and it What's that?
And all of them made fun of it, and it was Baba had written it.
Yeah.
They said Bao had written it, but Baba had
Baba
written
wrote
it, and
it,
they
yes.
said, "Look what Bao wrote," and all of them said, "Oh, this is stupid. This is so foolish."
Exactly.
Remember, they made fun of him.
Right.
And
but it
Bao
was
was
Baba.
told he couldn't say anything, and here Baba had written it.
You know what, this is good
Look
for
at
me too, to hear about Baba cleaning somebody like that, is I knew some nurses. I've known people, very compassionate with people who would think nothing of doing that. They thought of it in a way of just genuine service and without any kind of reservation. I guess it's just my, whatever it is, you say your weak stomach or something, I don't know what it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll see a person really sick, I run away instead of helping.
Yeah.
Because I guess
I have a hard time going into ICU wards and stuff.
do you have trouble with that too, Billy?
I used to, but I had my grandparents both came from family of 11 kids, and all lived within close proximity. So I had so many old relatives, and I've watched every single one of them die.
Wow.
So I've just, it's like, okay, whatever.
So you saw them.
I'm just like, I'd
detached
have
from
to go to the hospital,
So you're right there in
intensive
the rooms
care,
with all
and
the-
go in there,
all the
having to go to
medicine
nurse. And there was
nurses.
one, like one of my great aunts who I moved next door to. She was old. She was like 90 when I moved next door to her. She took care of herself, but I would go get her groceries. I'd take, just a little bit of stuff, But she fell and broke her hip, so she had to go to one of those like nursing home places for a while after she got out of the hospital, just for a couple months, till she rehabbed. Going in there, it was like so rough because everybody was laying there like this. And I remember the first day I went to see, she was like Mom Sorry or something. This woman was unbelievable. And I walked in, and she's sitting there. And I walked in, I said, "Nora, it's me, Billy." And she just looked at me, she goes, "You got to get me out of here." She's like, "You got to spring me."
Oh.
She's like, "I can't take it." She's like, "Look at this, the windows don't even open. They just got this heater, it's hot." She goes, "I want my windows open." She lived by herself. She was, but she was pretty amazing. She lived in the same house from the day she was born till the day she died.
My God.
People
And
don't
she
do
lived
that
to be
anymore.
98. And
My grandfather's 98 right now.
No, that's how it goes in our family. But it was like when she was the oldest of 11 kids, and her mother died giving birth to the last one.
Wow.
So she raised them all.
Oh, wow.
She was
My grandma
engaged.
did.
She was engaged to be married to a doctor, and she had to blow it all off to stay and take care of her family.
That's
amazing.
beautiful.
So that was her whole life, man.
She was saint. Really.
I swear, she was the
From
closest
the day
thing
she
to a
was
saint.
born to the day she died.
Same house.
Same house.
Same house.
My God.
No, she was like a saint, really, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But I remember,
Yeah.
I'll never forget walking into that office. I was like queasy too. I'm like, oh.
That's
I hated it back then,
Well,
but then you get used to it.
Well, in a hospital ward too, when I went to visit, I think Jean Adriel, before she died, she was in a nursing home, and she was in a room with two other patients. There was a man that was babbling just uncontrollably, and she was there sort of like semi-almost coma. And you could smell the stench of,
It's that urine
the body
smell,
urine.
kind of just-
And I think a lot of them probably they're just totally bedridden.
They're vegetables.
And
some of them.
and so I remember
Wow.
visiting Jean. Here, Jean is the author of the Avatar. She met Baba. She was extremely very beautiful, 30s or whatever. She met Baba, 50s. And here now she was in her 90s. She was dying, and it's amazing how you think everything's in the mind. Your mind is experiencing the conditions, the age, the smell, and it quickly is forgetting about who this person is almost.
Yeah.
You're starting to think of, and also she had memory loss, so you'd have to say, you'd say things about Baba to her, and she would just be blank, and sometimes she would say, and then you'd show Baba's picture to her, and she would just go, like, try to point at it. But the point what I'm trying to say is, it shows you that, how our minds are so conditioned to comfort, but yet we're going to be there someday.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I tell you.
If you're fortunate enough to live that long.
Right.
I don't know if that's so fortunate, to be honest. My mom died at 62, and I'm so glad. when I see how hard it is, you know.
To see people age and, yeah.
To age painfully, and I know that, like, her sister had cancer at, like, 65, the operations, a whole bit. None of the kids in her family have lived to be 70 yet. So rather than her have to deal with a lot of physical pain, she was out dancing the night before. She was in great shape. And then, so in one sense, it's made me, and just when you talk about how quick it's passing anyway, that I can only be happy that she went quickly and completely painlessly.
Yeah.
Painlessly. That, I mean, you know, and it's like, you know, Baba takes care of these things. Easter Sunday, when I came back home, I laid down on my bed to go to sleep that night. And I felt Baba and my mom right there.
Yeah.
Right there. They were just, and I kind of opened my eyes and I'm looking and it's, I mean, really, it's, I could almost see them, but I could just feel their energy there. And Baba's done that a couple of times with me where they came together.
Wow.
You know, so
on
it's
that
like,
day, it's so cool.
Yeah, because Easter's a hard day, you know, holidays and all that. And boy, I tell you, you see that, and knowing that everyone has to go anyway, and that Baba takes care of it and takes people at the perfect time.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, I would only hope that I could live my life happy and healthy and go with no pain and no real, like, sliding down too far. I'd hate to have to sit around with diapers on.
Oh, I hope not.
That's terrible.
Yeah, just to be honest, I mean, but you're right. I mean, it happens constantly.
Well, I almost think sometimes, I don't
It's
know,
horrible.
I've talked bravado about being taken to a rustic cabin somewhere in the wilderness and just saying, here's water. If you can't walk, crawl. The water will put on the ground. But at least you could crawl out your door and maybe on your last breath roll into the dirt and the leaves or something. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because I hate this sterile aspect of convalescent homes.
I do too.
Like
Terrible.
Dana Field, you know, I don't know if you got a chance to visit him at some convalescent home in the San Gabriel Valley, West Covina. I saw him last year. This year I missed him, but
he's still alive.
Chris and Chris will sing some, you know, do a little concert for him, then they'll show Baba videos on the big monitor, and he'll see it according with the other patients. They wheel him into this game room, and so these people, they're literally just look like they're comatose. They're just
so many of them
their body is just like there. I mean,
well, the way we treat our elderly in America is horrible.
Yeah, but then you look upon at the nurses station with these girls, and they're matter of fact with their lives. They're talking about their private, you know, things. They're going, where they're going to go to eat afterwards, what they're doing, and you almost say, you know, life is funny. It's a job for these nurses, and they give as much, you know, care they can, but they are not connected to these patients because, in a way, I think they realize they're on their last leg, all these people, so they're just there to do the best they can without being cruel, I guess, to the people. But it was funny to see Dana, who I knew very vibrant in the late 70s and early 80s. He was the caretaker at the Baba Center. He was there, a strict vegetarian guy who would comb the neighbor fruit, avocados, and he would usually try to take them if they were over the sidewalk. He jury-rigged a broomstick with a wire, and he'd pull them down. So finally he had some flack from these people that own these properties. Hey, you're pulling out my tree. It's over the sidewalk. It's free game. You know? And so finally he got into asking some people, and they would let him take, but he was an amazing character. He invited me up for a couple of his vegetarian meals. Every night he would eat a feast of waterless vegetarian cooking. He had a stainless steel saucepan that he would load up with snow peas and potatoes, carrots, and all this, and then make a big pot of rice. But he cooked the food waterless. So this stainless steel pan, it wasn't wrought iron, actually became almost burnt and caked because he cooked the vegetables with a cover.
Steam.
But he would cook them waterless. He would let the vegetables, through their own moisture in the vegetables, cook themselves. And so I remember eating with him once. I says, Dana, this food tastes burnt. He says, no, that's waterless cooking taste.
That's wild.
First of all, you put low, when you put that low. After it gets perspired.
He was amazing. He was amazing. He would eat. And finally, then when he went into the convalescent home, he
Oh, we came to visit him.
Yeah,
Oh, you're talking
yeah.
about the
Well,
gentleman.
Dana.
Yeah,
but just
yeah.
before he went to the convalescent home,
He's alive now.
he changed. Is he all right?
Of course, last year we went to see
Is he
him.
talking?
Yeah.
He talked?
Yeah, he came sit by
No,
us.
wait a minute. Dana talked to you?
The one way up in
Dana Field. It was Kavina?
Yeah, Baba, we
Bald head?
spoke. Yeah, we went there.
That was about 2-3 years
Oh,
No,
ago.
last year I
2-3
went
years
with Merlush.
Because I heard he had a minor stroke a couple of years ago.
With Merlush we went, I went last
Really?
year. He's okay, he's very good. And they make I think
But he's in that movie, Baba's Birthday.
Debbie was there too. They
Yeah,
sing there.
the Three Incredible
Yeah,
Weeks scene at
really?
the tomb. When
There
Baba
was
was at
pictures around his
when
house.
Baba was at the
Oh,
tomb in
wow.
India,
Yeah,
you see Dana in the audience with all the men, that's men meeting.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me read
that.
a little bit here. In this, a young man of only 19 named Chuggan Sitaram Dattatray was a resident of Bingar village on the outskirts of Ahmednagar. Chuggan was a Brahmin and a frequent visitor to Sikori, where he thought he was on a familiar terms with Upasni Maharaj. One day he was informed that Maharaj's chief disciple was not a Brahmin, but a Parsi. This is Baba. And that he was living very nearby in Arangon village. Chuggan was shocked by this information, since he was a strict Brahmin, absorbed in Vedantism. For quite some time he was hesitant in visiting this Parsi guru. But ill fortune befell Chuggan, and he was forced by circumstances to seek Meher Baba's darshan. He took a tonga to Mehrabad and was relieved when Baba greeted him warmly. Baba asked what he wanted. Chuggan narrated a woeful tale of material ruin. My family's financial condition has deteriorated badly. I wish it to be as it was before. Baba said, I know everything, don't worry. It will gradually be restored. And there's a footnote on this. What is that footnote? Because it could be, let's see, 706.
Anybody was hot water?
There's hot water there. It came to pass that Chuggan regained his family's wealth, though by that time Chuggan was detached from materialism, but his family got it back. Soon after, Chuggan's father too began coming to Mehrabad. One day Baba asked Chuggan, would you work as a teacher in the school here? Chuggan said, I wish to serve you and will do whatever work I am given. Baba then directed Chuggan to live in Mehrabad, and with his father's consent he moved there. But this orthodox Brahmin, who was used to food being cooked in rich ghee, could not assimilate the simple meals of unseasoned dal and rice served in Mehrabad. You know, that's so true. Have you ever tried to cook dal and rice without really butter or oil?
I know.
It's hard to put dal.
It is.
I'll tell you, like you were talking about the great food, when you have the best dal, it's like, it's elixir.
It is.
It's just, ooh.
We love ghee.
You can almost just
I'm
sip
with
it.
them on
Sip the dal and just, it's...
You know, yeah, you go and there'll be all these delicacies, and then the dal will be like the best thing.
I know.
When dal is just right, it's just like amazing.
Obtaining Baba's permission, he returned home after only a few days. However, Baba told him to send his father to him. When his father came to Mehrabad, Baba informed him of certain spiritual matters. When Chuggan's father returned home, he sternly told his son that he must go back to Mehrabad. I won't go. I can't eat the food there. Pleading, his father then disclosed, I have promised Meher Baba would send you. You will have to go. Chuggan had no choice and reluctantly began staying in Mehrabad, assisting Arjun and Vishnu as a teacher in the Harzat Babajan school. One day, Chuggan's father went to see Upasni Maharaj, and Maharaj asked him about his son. He explained that Chuggan was now staying with Meher Baba at Arangon. Hearing this, Maharaj exclaimed, what the hell have you done? Hearing this, Maharaj exclaimed, what the hell have you done? You being a Brahmin,